Yep, Charlamagne the God.
Andrew Schultz.
We are the Brilliant Idiots, and today's episode of Brilliant Idiots is brought to you by Squarespace. No matter what you need a website for, Squarespace provides the tools to help you build. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com and enter offer code IDIOT to get 10% off your first purchase. Squarespace sets your website apart.
We got some shows coming up. We got the, well, first of all, I'm going to be in Amsterdam the 3rd to the 6th. I'm performing the Amsterdam Comedy Festival. It's at Toomler. I think the venue is called Toomler. Just go to theandrewschultz.com and you could get a link for tickets right there. And then the 7th of August, I'm going to be in London. Okay, you can go to theandrewschultz.com to get tickets for that as well. It's a Backyard Comedy Club. All right. So make sure you peep that. And then the 12th, I'm going to be in Long Island at the Brokerage. And the 14th of August, I'm going to be at the Comedy Factory in Baltimore. So make sure you check those out. Look, the 27th of August, Brilliant Idiots Live in Columbus, Ohio. Make sure you get those tickets, okay? It's at idiotslive.brownpapertickets.com if you want tickets for that. And also, of course, we are going to be in the, what is it called, Chris? Now Hear This Festival in Los Angeles. So LA, make sure you come out to that. You can go to nowhearthis.com probably and get tickets for it. But we are going to go there. It's going to be nowhearthisfest.com. But we're going to be there. And it's in October. So go get all the information for that because I don't have it on me right now. Yeah.
Let's start the show. Now, last week was a very intense episode of the Brilliant Idiots.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I was embarrassed.
Why?
I was embarrassed by the episode because I feel like the Brilliant Idiots, even though we come off as Brilliant Idiots, I think some parts of it was just pure stupid. Like, it was just pure dumb. Like it was just like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Like what? Which parts?
Dwayne, you got the clip, right? Because I want to share this with our listeners because our listeners, people was tweeting me about it, and I'm like, let's play it out in front of the people.
Mm-hmm. You came prepared. Chris, can you Google it right now?
I don't know if there's any way to Google that.
Google the percentages of religious folks in America. Now, we're going to give you a study, and then Charlamagne's going to go, well, what's the proof of that study?
Yeah, like, how do you, that's what I think.
I don't agree with that study, so that study must not have proof.
I mean, I'll look it up, but it's like, so what are you saying? In very basic terms, you're saying if you took 10 white people...
There's more white atheists, is what I'm saying. There's more white atheists and more white agnostic people than black people.
8 black people are going to identify as religious. And only 6 are going to identify on the white side.
I mean, it's really, but this is, I mean, look, we shouldn't even be doing this because it's so obvious, but please just look it up. Please just look it up.
Percentage of white people religious.
No, just do religious percentages amongst all races.
83% of Americans identify themselves as Christian. Most of the rest, 13%, have no religion. That leaves just 4% as adherents of all non-Christian religions combined, which is Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist.
We just need versions of. We just need.
I just looked it up.
You didn't look up race. You don't even know what we're doing right now. You're not even paying attention.
You said percentage of religious people in America.
You don't even know what's going on. You have no clue what's happening in the conversation. Look,
I'm wrapping up. Listen, I refuse to argue with Andrew Schultz about nothing. I tell him all the time.
Just look up the argument. Just look up the argument.
Here's not Google what he told me to Google. Percentage of religious people in America.
We're talking by race. You
said religious people. You just specifically shut Chris down and said look up religious people.
Do you not even know what we're discussing anymore? You 3 in the room.
Didn't Chris just say, you want me to look up white, black, and
what are we discussing? What are we discussing right now?
Religious people
What are we discussing right now? By race.
But you didn't say that.
One, by race. What are we talking about? By race. What are we discussing right now? By race. Greg, what are we discussing right now? Everybody gets it but you.
I want y'all to rewind
Everybody in the room gets it but you. But let me guess, they're all white devils, so that's why they don't understand.
I want y'all to rewind this and listen to him say percentage of religious people in America.
We know what we talking about.
After the fact, he said by race.
You are moonwalking yourself out of this argument so fast. That's what you do. You are moonwalking.
And this is why the Brilliant Idiots are a bunch of fucking idiots.
Why? I don't think there was anything idiotic there besides what you were saying.
Oh my God. I'm not even going... He's not even listening to himself. And that's my whole point. It comes a point in time in these podcasts where you're not listening to yourself. I'm not listening to myself. We're not listening to each other. And nobody in the room is clearly listening.
Charlamagne, the only person in that room, there are people that are going to agree with you that listen to this podcast dogmatically.
So did you not hear that clip just now?
Charlamagne, can I just explain something?
Did you not hear that clip?
I did, and it bothers me that you're
Chris,
not
did you not hear the
understanding
clip, Chris?
Chinese arithmetic.
Like, listen, Jesus Christ.
Listen.
Listen. Seriously.
You go.
This is going to kill the integrity of the podcast.
You talking, I'll talk.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you right now, this is going to kill the integrity of the podcast.
You talking,
and people are going to stop taking us serious. If they hear us say something, it's one thing if one of us said something and it's wrong. Cool. It's one thing if we say something and nobody agrees. But if they hear us say something and then 10 seconds later, we act like we don't know what just came out of our mouth, they're going to stop taking us serious.
Okay, that's not what happened. And I think, and I'm going to be honest with you. First of all, there's going to be people that listen to this podcast and they're going to listen, and no matter what you argue or what you say, they're going to believe in you. Same way that, some people, no matter what their
I just gave you evidence.
Leader, you didn't. Charlamagne, if you really want me to go over that video with you, I can explain very clearly what just was broken down.
I just gave you evidence.
Give me the video again. No. Because now we're going to fucking do it, and it's going to be embarrassing again.
Why?
Because I'll be honest, I got a lot of tweets today saying Charlamagne doesn't understand, not today, this week, saying Charlamagne doesn't understand math.
And that's fine. And that's why I said, listen, that's why I said I don't mind if I'm wrong. I don't mind if people don't agree. Because I got a lot of tweets, people saying, Schultz don't know what the fuck you talking about, and that's the brilliant is. But what I'm saying is...
And those people also don't understand math.
Schultz, but it's not what I'm saying.
This is not opinion, Charlamagne. This is math.
Are you listening? We cannot continue to do this podcast if you don't listen, Schultz.
Listen.
I said in that clip, you said, let's look up percentages of religion in America.
No, I said percentage of religions within race in America.
That's not what you said the first time.
What was the initial argument?
Play it again, Dwayne.
No. Because you're taking something out of context. What was Chris? Calm down. What was the original argument? Was who is more racist, white people or black people?
So what I always tell you, it's not about what you meant to say.
Who's more religious?
It's not about what you meant to say. It's about what you said.
That's what I did say.
What you told Chris to look up.
That's what I did say.
What you told Chris to look up was percentage of religious people in America. When I Googled that, you said I was a dumb fuck.
Charlamagne.
I don't know what the...
Because you were acting like a dumb fuck and not paying attention to the argument.
You're not even paying attention to what you said.
Charlamagne, the initial argument was who is more religious in America? Well, actually, the initial argument was
black people are homophobic.
More homophobic than white people, which my predicator for homophobia, and as many articles have also backed up, was religion, because it preaches homophobia in some ways, right? So I assumed, since black people, there's a larger percentage of black people that are religious than there is a larger percentage of white people that are religious, you could make the argument that black people are more homophobic than white people. Now, that doesn't mean this was where we got tricky with the math. You messed up this idea where you were talking about, well, there's more white people than black people, so therefore there's more white people that are homophobic. Yes, that's true, but we're not comparing the total number of white people that are homophobic and the total number of black people. We're comparing the percentages within each race.
That's fine. My concern is we get off on these dumbass tangents where nobody's listening. We're not even listening to the words that are coming out of our mouths.
Do you take any accountability for not understanding the argument?
I just said we. I said we. I just said
Why don't you say me? Because my argument's been consistent the entire time.
But you're still not listening. That's the problem. That's what I want to talk about right now.
All right,
not listening.
Let's talk about it.
We're not listening to each other. We cannot continue to do a podcast together if nobody's listening to what's going on in the room.
But in reality,
and you have to be held accountable for what comes out of your mouth. So if you say something, which you did, you asked Chris to look up the percentage of religious people in America. So that's why Chris said to you, what exactly are you saying? And then I looked it up, and then you said, see, Charlamagne, you don't even know what the fuck we're talking about. Right now we're talking about race. And you asked everybody, when I specifically said Schultz, that's not what just came out of your mouth, though.
Chris knew exactly what I asked him to do.
No, he didn't.
Chris,
he asked you in that clip.
Chris, why would you fucking do that right now? Because after the podcast, we had a whole conversation where you knew exactly what I was trying to talk about. Why would you fucking shake your head?
The larger argument.
I didn't know what Don't you do that shit.
See, this is the problem.
We had a large conversation after. Get on the mic so that you can talk about this. We had a large conversation after the podcast how you knew exactly what I was talking about, and you totally understand the mathematical and percentage-based argument that we are made based on religious people in America.
Once again, that argument is fine. Whether you right on that or wrong on that, it doesn't matter. Whether I'm wrong, it does not matter. That's fine. That's what we do.
Okay.
But when it comes a point in time where nobody is listening at all, you say something and then don't even know what you say 30 seconds later.
No, I did know. And then you're the one that's not listening here. This is what is so frustrating right now, is if we're talking about this context, Charlamagne.
Chris, did you hear the clip?
Yeah, listen. Let me backtrack. Yes. I told you I understood what you were saying about Dr. Johnson.
No,
after the show.
not on that. About the religion.
And the larger points you're trying to make, yes. To the specific thing, I've listened to the clip 10 times. I was live in the room. I really don't understand on that specific thing. Because when you just walked it back now, everything made sense.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it was like, no, not this, not that. See, I think it's about the energy, what you're really saying. Like, yo, have the conversation. But it's like, because you can hear me in that clip trying to slow it down and break it down in very basic terms. So you're saying 10 white people this, but it's still like.
I'm saying I'm just talking about percentages. Obviously, you can't compare two groups if one group is.
Show still isn't listening. Argument we totally understand. We understand.
So then what argument are you? This is my issue with this whole thing, is that you're having a separate argument that nobody was having.
What I'm doing right now is having brilliant idiot show prep, things that can make the show better in front of everybody, because I feel like we owe our listeners that.
Okay.
In that moment, we all sound like fucking fools. The reason we sound like fucking fools is because if you say something, we look it up, and then you say, no, that's not what I said. And I say to you, Schultz, you just said that. And I even tell people, rewind the clip so you can hear what he just said.
Yeah.
It makes us look crazy overall. And you don't understand those moments like that. Those moments like that neglect everything. People always pick those. Look, today, I'm going to give you a perfect example. I'm doing Donkey of the Day today, right? I give it to everybody that believes Birdman actually bought the radio station for $5 million and fired me. Because we don't give people the credit they deserve for being stupid. We don't, even though I'm on the radio, motherfuckers is like, yo, you really fired? So I give everybody Donkey of the Day. I said, not only am I getting tweets from America, I'm getting tweets from other countries, from Africa, in Africa, like Africa and London. Okay, Africa and London aren't countries. They're continents, right?
Correct.
I make a mistake and say
London's
countries.
not a continent either. Africa's a continent, London's a city.
So I make a mistake. Nobody gives a fuck about everything else I said. My whole timeline is, yo, you just said Africa's a country, you said Africa's a country, you said Africa's a country. Because that's the way people's brains are wired.
Yeah.
So like I told you last week during the podcast, we could be saying the most brilliant shit. As soon as you do one thing people don't like, or one thing people can pick out and say, yo, you're wrong about, it'll fucking make everything else just null and void.
And I agree with you completely.
And that to me, what I heard is embarrassing.
Yep. I think
for any presenter.
I think
for me and you.
Sure. I think what you missed in that clip, and I think the clip that you took was midway through our conversation, which is why you probably took it from that point, is the context of the discussion, which was not even included in that point, which was who is more homophobic and what is the predictor of homophobia.
But no, that's a whole different conversation.
No, it wasn't a different conversation.
If you say,
Charlamagne, I need you to be accountable for what we're talking about. If you care about the integrity of this podcast, you're not being accountable right now.
In that conversation, we were talking about religion and race and who's the most religious out of the races.
And why were we talking about that?
Homophobia, but that's two different things.
No. Say what you just said again. Why were we talking about homophobia in terms of the races?
You were saying that the more religious a person is, the more homophobic they are, and you said black people are the most religious. So in that...
I didn't say the most. I said they're more religious than white people.
The same thing, Schultz.
No, because they're Mexicans. Mexicans are probably more religious than they're Latinos.
Than white people,
there are many other people in America.
Okay, I got you.
So the point is, we're having a discussion. I just want everybody to be very clear. So you know the context of this discussion, Charlamagne, and right now you're trying to pretend as if we didn't, as if this race discussion and religion discussion, percentages discussion had nothing to do with the previous thing. We are proving a previous conversation. Now you want to talk about listening.
You're not listening to
me, it shows me
that
maybe you weren't listening when we were recording that podcast, and that's why you thought we were having two separate discussions.
Still not listening.
And the people that listened, and the people that actually understood it, knew exactly what was going on. The four people that we questioned in the room knew exactly what was going on. You were the only person that didn't know what's going on, and I'm all about
listening.
You.
That's what I was trying. That's my whole point.
Why is it everybody's in the room knows what's going on? All the people on Twitter know what's going on, and you're the only person still that doesn't know what's going on.
So why were people tweeting me saying Charlamagne was right? Schultz did say. Look it up by religion.
You were included in all the tweets that people were tweeting me as well.
Yes.
So we saw all the same tweets. So let's act like we didn't see all the same tweets.
No, we didn't see all the same tweets. You think that everybody that tweeted you tweeted me?
You have much more. Why?
Exactly.
Why?
So you think everybody that tweeted you tweeted me?
You have much more.
Do me a favor.
You have much more.
Do me a favor. Ask me why I isolated that clip one more time. Ask me. Ask me right now. Ask me.
I think you isolated.
No, don't ask me. Don't tell me what you think. Ask me.
Okay. Why did you isolate the clip?
I isolated that clip to show how terrible we sound as presenters. It don't have nothing to do with what we were talking about. It don't have nothing to do with what we were debating. It has to do with two people doing a show and talking over each other. Nobody's listening. It has nothing to do with whether you were right about what you was arguing, about what I was right about arguing. We're not listening to each other. We're not listening to ourselves. That shit sounds horrible.
Okay.
That's it.
So in the future, moving on, because I thought this was a discussion about who was right or wrong about these statistics, but you're talking
I
about...
never said that. Did I ever say that, Chris? I never came in there and said that. I said I was embarrassed by what happened on the podcast.
You're talking
last
about
week.
the overall content and the tone of the show.
That's it.
You're still talking about the
No,
specific
not even the
argument.
content. Not even the content.
How it's
Overall tone of
presented.
the show.
How it's presented.
And at certain points, and I use that point specifically because it happened a bunch of times during the podcast.
Right.
I use that point specifically because it was the best example of nobody listening. You cannot have a good conversation if you're not listening to
I
each
was
other.
thoroughly entertained by listening to the clip. That's the first time I
You like
listened to it.
noise.
I like
You like noise.
passion.
You like
no, I
that's
like
whack,
passion.
But it has to be
I like
informed, educated passion.
and it
Shorty.
was informed and educated. It
Not if you don't even know what's
actually was.
not
Just
even if
because
you
you
don't-
disagree
not
with
even
it
if you
or
don't
were
know-
proved
not
wrong
even-
doesn't mean it's not informed and
not
educated.
even if you don't know what's even coming out of your mouth.
But here's the thing, Charlamagne. You keep projecting these ideas that you're feeling onto me in the discussion when you were the person that wasn't informed in that debate. Listen, there's been a lot of debates, Charlamagne.
I'm not, listen,
where I'm the uninformed one, and you know 10 times more than me. Every rap conversation that we have, you know a million times more than me.
I can admit if I'm not informed. I can admit if I'm wrong.
And you didn't even know the context of the discussion until right now.
Can you admit when you're wrong?
I just told you right now.
So can you admit in that clip you were wrong?
I was not wrong in that clip, Charlamagne. And that is the issue right now.
And you were wrong about white people,
That was
everybody
the-
being atheists. Only 2% of the world, I mean, in America are atheists.
And you might be right about this. Or,
I looked that up.
Or I could pull
'Cause I heard you
Charlamagne.
say-
Well,
I heard
what
you-
was the poll?
No, I heard.
What was the poll?
Oh, I got another great statistic that I should have used last
We don't
week.
use statistics. Remember those polls?
Shouldn't.
You can't trust
we
them.
shouldn't, because
Those polls are
you know the
crazy.
greatest statistic that I like?
What's that?
76.3% of all statistics are bullshit. That's a fact.
So then that statistic's bullshit. You can't trust it.
It could be. You're right, but you're right though. But you're
Once
right.
you go down that wormhole, it's crazy.
But you're right. You're right.
But the point that we're trying to say is there are conversations, Charlamagne, and a lot of them on this show where you're just way smarter than me in that topic. You understand the topic way more. Anytime we're talking about realistically music, race, racial experiences, these types of things, I argue and we'll have these debated comments, but I'm not ignorant to the idea that you are much more well informed than I am in these topics.
Listen, I'm with you on that.
In this one topic, I felt that I had a better grasp of it. I think mainly also because I didn't think that you were paying attention to what I was arguing. And I think that even right now, this discussion and that clip shows that you weren't paying attention to the context of the discussion previously.
I totally understand the context. What I was trying to tell you last week was I simply didn't agree. I don't agree. I simply don't agree.
You don't agree with facts.
They're not facts.
Okay, well, then you don't agree with statistics. I
don't agree with that. I don't agree with statistics.
Fair enough.
Statistics change all the motherfucking time. 5 years from now, Mexicans might be the most
Let me ask
quote
you a
unquote
question.
religious people in America.
What's the best? What's the number one morning hip hop radio show in New York City, the tri-state area?
That's not statistics. Those are actual ratings.
Well, what do you think?
And guess what?
What do you think
Those-
ratings are?
And that's bullshit.
And those change. Word up.
Hold on. So my point
Word
is,
up.
you have no problem, and I have no problem talking about statistics in terms of things that benefit us and how well things are doing, et
No,
cetera.
I think statistics are different even than censuses. Because like with a census, you can actually take you can count how many people are actually in America.
But that's not
an
statistic.
actual number.
That's not. Sorry, it is statistics. It is statistics, but it's not a representative. It's not a survey that represents the greater population. It's actually the population. We got. Yeah,
that's what I'm
so
saying.
it's like that's the most accurate. But you know for a fact that we can't poll every single person that listens to the morning radio, but we can through scientific research poll enough people that would let us know that Power 105.1 The Breakfast Club is the number one hip hop radio show in the tri-state area. Right? We know that for a fact.
That's not true though.
Oh, or what is it?
Z100.
Hip hop. I said hip hop morning radio show.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Okay, but
I think you could even go for.
But those are numbers, though.
Those are metrics.
Yeah, those
I mean,
are exactly metrics. Those are metrics.
what
Numbers,
you're
metrics.
But those,
I happen
real quick,
to
Chris,
agree with your
Can I
point,
just say one thing real quick?
But you can't prove it.
Can I just say one thing?
That.
So we know that through TV, right?
Right.
We know through like TV ratings. Remember back in the day, it might be different now because we all got the internet, cable, and TV. But remember back in the day, a certain amount of people would get those boxes.
Nielsen
rating, right? So it's like you would get this, and for everybody who doesn't understand, there would be like 100,000 people or something, maybe even less. 10,000 that got like these Nielsen boxes, and whatever they watched on TV, they used the statistics from those 100,000 people and projected it on the entire population, and that's how they got 20 million viewers per week for the Johnny Carson show or whatever, et cetera.
And radio's no different.
And radio's no different.
Mm-hmm.
So we, at a certain point in time, have to give some merit to these statistics and the scientific process that's gone into making them reflective of a population.
Statistics help whatever argument you're having because you have something that you can say statistics show.
Yeah.
But it don't make it factual.
You're right.
That's
it's
all
not
I was saying
factual.
last
It's
week.
not, and it is, and they are manipulatable. I 100% agree. But at a certain point in time, we have to give them some credence. We can't just discredit all statistics.
I didn't discredit them. I'm just saying I don't agree.
All right.
If
Like I
what
said-
you're really saying is, hey, I feel black people are a little more homophobic than white people, what you're really just going off of is your experience and your observation.
No, but that wasn't
and that's
my argument.
cool to me.
But Chris, that wasn't my argument. If you listen to the podcast,
Well, then I've lost you too.
if you
His
listen,
argument was basically that black people are
This is the
more
problem,
religious than.
I'm listening.
this is
That's
the
not-
fucking
What
problem,
the fuck
man.
you mean? Now this is my problem. I came in here and said this was the problem.
Listen,
We're not
can you
listening.
explain what I'm saying to Chris because he's just sitting
He's
here.
basically saying that he feel like black people are more homophobic. He was basing it off
Because
the
of
fact
the church.
Because of the church.
So my feeling
I'm
is
with
black
you.
people are not more homophobic. Religious people are more homophobic.
And
It
there's a
just so
higher
happens that
percentage
there's
of
a higher
African-American
percentage of African Americans that are
Right.
religious than there are the white people that are religious. That was the only argument I was making.
And
Because I'm not going to chalk up homophobia to your skin color. That's fucking stupid. I wouldn't. It
I
doesn't
can't
make
chalk
sense.
it up to religion either, though. That was the other thing I was trying to say. Like, I can't chalk it up to just religion. Because if that was the case, it'd be so many motherfucking homophobic people
There
in
are.
America. I mean,
There
there
are.
is, but there's a lot of open people too, man.
Bro, they just got the right to get married. That's how many homophobic people.
And if you
but it was an argument.
but it's been people fighting for their right to get
True.
married for decades.
But let's take it out of America. If you look around the globe, the one constant, you throw skin color out the window, the one constant in terms of rates of homophobia is, unfortunately, religion. I mean, I think that's accurate to say.
Religion is horrendous for
Yeah.
homophobia, for gay people. Like, you can get killed.
That's the argument we
for
should have
being
been
gay.
having.
Right.
Why are religious people so homophobic?
Why do you
like,
think-
I didn't
But I
understand.
think that's what you
I didn't
were. I think
understand
that's-
pinpointing it on just black
Right.
people.
Well,
Right.
that's why I was trying to remove it, right? I was
Right.
trying to remove it from black people because I didn't think it was fair to give black people a stereotype of being homophobic if it had nothing to do with their blackness, but rather their religious affiliation.
I agree. That's why I didn't understand. Why did you say black people are more homophobic? I mean,
don't-
based off religion, I get it.
That's
But
what-
even still, it's like the conversation should have been religious people are so homophobic.
I forget how we
and then
got
I would have fought for. I don't believe all religious people are homophobic. Just
Not all
because
of
the
them.
Bible says so.
Not all of them.
I don't even think it's I'm not gonna say vast majority, but I would say probably half and half. The world is changing because the Bible also says love.
Depends
the Bible
where.
also says you got to not to judge people. So it's a lot of things people subscribe to in the Bible that counteracts that whole gay is an abomination.
It says not to judge, but in the same breath, it says these people are going to hell for these crimes. So it's like these sins. So it's like
it tells us don't eat pork either. It says don't have sex before marriage. Like it's a lot of shit
And
that you can
people
start.
don't do
Like,
that.
you can't
Don't
start
wear
weighing
mixed
sins.
fibers.
people don't do that shit, bro. If you go to the Middle East, if you go to parts of Africa and shit like that, they're not. We live in America, bro. We live in a separation between church and state, and we live the good life. When your life is good on earth, you don't give a fuck about the afterlife. But when you live in places that fucking suck, and the only thing you have to look forward is being dead and going to heaven, all of a sudden that pork don't look too appetizing.
Yeah. But listen, all that's great conversation. My whole thing was we have to listen to each other.
You're right.
That's it.
You're right.
Like
And
the
I'm
room
guilty of-
has to listen
Yep.
to each other. That's it. Like that 2-minute clip, just listening as a broadcaster was embarrassing. I'm like, yo, what the fuck are we doing? Like, if we can get into many heated debates, disagree, agree, be right, be wrong, all of that's cool. But that clip was like, this shit will ruin the integrity of the show. Because that's the kind of shit that make listeners be like, these motherfuckers don't even know what the fuck they talking about.
Well,
they just talking.
It's not only that. What I would argue is it limits the show to hardcore listeners. Because I think if you're a hardcore Brilliant Idiots fan, you can get off on that convo. Even when it spiraled out of control at that point.
Yeah.
Because you know the dynamic between you guys. If that's the first time listening to the show, you're turning it off. You know what I
it's just
mean?
noise.
Because it's just people screaming, and you don't have
yeah.
the background, you don't have the context, you don't have the Schultz is really going at Charlemagne today. Charlemagne, like at least a hardcore fan has some sort of perspective on it. If you're a new listener, you're gone.
Now, what do
That
we
I agree
stay
with.
to this? What do we? And I agree with you guys. I think we got to listen more. And I specifically know that that's something that I can struggle with in terms of like I disrupt. I can talk over. I can do these things. I know that, and it's something I'm trying to work on. I do feel like I'm listening, but what do we say to the fact that statistics show that last week's episode did phenomenally?
That's our average number. Shows.
No, I would say 20,000 views.
How much we got?
over.
How much we got?
We're already at 131,000 views.
Average.
No. By now we're usually around like 115.
No way.
110. Yeah.
I'm calling this an average show.
It's Tuesday. It's not Wednesday.
Average.
It's Tuesday. It's not
average
Wednesday.
show. I will concede an above average amount of comments.
No.
Above average amount of comments. That
Yes.
I agree.
But
I agree. Comments.
Chris, guys, I don't mean to just completely disagree with you and discredit what you're saying, but to say that we would get 130,000 views by a Tuesday is inaccurate, Chris. I'm very well
We had 120 with the Joe Budden on by Friday.
Biden was an outlier too.
But is an outlier.
Yeah.
And to be honest, and that was a great episode, but it's still
That's average for us.
No, 130 by now is not. It's not.
You ain't been
Usually
checking
we're in
the stats,
110. I check them every week.
That's pretty average for us.
I'm
Hey,
telling
audience,
you.
see, we're paying attention. We tried to play it cool for a long time, but now the audience is seeing that we're.
Yeah,
We never played it cool when them fuckers stopped showing us the views. We was like, what the fuck is going on? We wanted to see the goddamn views. I just felt like it was important to have this conversation with the listeners.
You're right.
I like it. I'll be lying if I tell you I don't. Of course, I go read the SoundCloud comments. I interact with y'all all the time. This is what we do as a unit. Like when we say we're the brilliant idiots, it's not just me and Schultz. It's everybody that listens to this motherfucking show. Because you got to be dumb as shit to want to hear this shit for a fucking hour and a half every week. Okay, so let's bring in our guests. Let's pay these bills.
All right.
We got a good guest for y'all this week.
All right.
If you're up on your shit. All right. This week's episode of Brilliant Idiots is brought to you by Away Travel. Away Travel suitcases are unrivaled in strength and impact resistance and feature a lightweight and sleek design. Now, our luggage got stolen.
What do you mean?
Didn't it get stolen here? At Engine Room Studios?
Engine Room Studios. But they say that they've never seen a luggage or they don't know where it is, etc.
Okay, yeah.
But
that's
Away
what
sent it
airlines
over.
tell us too.
Yeah, I bet. A nice piece of luggage. That's how nice Away's luggage is, really, when you think about it, is that people will steal that shit. I don't know if that's the right thing to say for an ad, but look, the reality is being sturdy and looking great. They have some very cool features. The suitcase even comes with a removable, washable laundry bag to keep dirty clothes separate from clean clothes. I can't tell you how important this shit is. I travel a lot for a living, and you're gone for a week, and you have all these stinky fucking clothes, and you're keeping them in the same bag with your clean clothes. But it's beautiful. Just have a nice little sealable laundry bag in the luggage. There's even a TSA approved combination lock built into the top of the bag to prevent theft from scammers so they can't get into your prized possessions. But honestly, my favorite feature in the whole bag, you don't have to worry about not being able to find an outlet to charge your phone at while you're stuck at the airport. The carry-on is able to charge all cell phones, tablets, and anything else that's powered by a USB cord. A single fully charged carry-on suitcase can charge an iPhone 5 times, bro.
Jesus Christ.
5 times.
All right, Away has got your back if anything goes wrong with your suitcase. A lifetime warranty if anything breaks. They will fix or replace it for you for life, okay? Away Travel is so confident in their product that they're willing to give you a 100-day trial with the suitcase. Live with it, travel with it, Instagram it, and if at any point you decide it's not for you, return it for a full refund, no questions asked, okay? Get your new suitcase from Away Travel today and get free shipping on any order within the continental U.S. For $20 off your order, visit awaytravel.com/idiots and use promo code idiots during checkout. That's awaytravel.com/idiots, promo code idiots during checkout. Away first class travel at a coach price. Well, it looks like Donald Trump's campaign is fucking unraveling.
Yeah.
It's a wrap.
You think it's a wrap?
I think they're finally about to get him the fuck up out of here.
Why? Off of the con thing?
Off of the con thing, and you know, if you saw the approval rating or whatever the poll is, Hillary is actually now ahead of Trump after the Democratic National Convention.
So she was below after the Republican National Convention?
Yeah, he was beating her. He was beating her by like a few points. But now she's like well ahead in a few polls. I think the reason for that is because Hillary bought out the fucking Avengers. Whether or not you like Hillary, you like somebody. You may not like Hillary, but you like somebody on Hillary's team.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hillary might be fucking Black Widow. And you might think she ain't got no powers. She can't fly, none of that shit. But she got the Hulk on her side,
Thor.
Barack Obama. She got Thor, Bill motherfucking Clinton. Okay? She got goddamn...
Who are the Avengers? Who would be each Avenger?
I don't know,
Who is
man.
Barack? Barack's got to be Stark.
I think Clinton's Captain America.
Clinton, Captain America. Barack Tony
Barack
Stark.
Joe Biden, Incredible Hulk.
Is Joe Biden Incredible
Joe
Hulk?
Biden is the fucking Hulk, bro.
Maybe. All right, fine. Joe Biden's Incredible Hulk. What's up, man?
This is my man, Immortal Technique. Peace, my brother. You sitting right there.
Come here, sit down.
We got my man, Immortal Technique. We was sitting in here discussing the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention, and I was saying that
See right here.
Hillary is up in the polls now. And even if you don't like Hillary, you like some of her friends. You like Barack, you like Joe Biden, you like Bill Clinton. The Immortal Technique don't like any of them, but I'm just speaking for people who aren't as politically inclined as you.
No, it's not that I don't like any of them. I just feel like there's a false narrative set up around them. You know, with Republicans, we used the military forces of the people who live in this country to overthrow other places. And when a Democratic establishment came to power, we started using mercenaries, you know? And I feel like what people don't really understand is that Barack Obama, to his credit as a person who worked a lot on domestic issues, was very right-wing on foreign affairs, you know? Mm-hmm. For example, he completed the Bush Doctrine. Right? What was the Bush Doctrine? To knock over countries that were opposed to America's foreign policy in the Middle Eastern region. So he took care of Iraq. He wanted to take care of Afghanistan, although that was a losing battle. And then he decided that there were other places that he would oversee the subjugation of, Gaza and places like that. But the factor that people don't take in is that when Obama came into office, what were the countries that he knocked over? He knocked over Libya, right? Mm-hmm. Got rid of Gaddafi. We wanted to get rid of him so badly during, well, I say we, the American empire, but Bush couldn't do it at the time because if you remember, he gave up his chemical weapons. You look through Google, you'll see it. Gaddafi said Libya doesn't want no war with these psychos that are just knocking countries over that had nothing to do with 9/11, right? So then what was the next country he took over? Well, it was Tunisia. Ben Ali had to leave. He's not our friend enough, so we need someone else stronger. The dictator in Egypt was weak, so we're going to get rid of him and we'll bring someone else new. Let the Muslim Brotherhood warm the seat for a little while so that people feel like they actually have something. But we'll put an American-backed dictator into power, and that's what a Sisi is. And then what happened after that? We decided that Syria was a problem, so we destabilized that country by using mercenaries that then became ISIS. So if you ask me a question about that real quick before you jump in, if he didn't complete the Bush Doctrine, what the fuck would he be doing differently?
Can I ask you, can you explain the idea of mercenaries to people who maybe aren't familiar, like the idea of a proxy war?
Right. If you had been a soldier your whole life, let's say you served in the Army, the Marines, either in this country or that equivalent in some other country, because a lot of the mercenaries that America hires are from other nations. First of all, they don't like to be called that. They like to be called contractors. Yeah. But you're not building a mall. You know what I mean? You're
actually doing the opposite. You're blowing up the mall.
You're not constructing a sidewalk, right?
One of my best friends is a mercenary.
So what you do is you basically are paid to secure another country. But what happens is that these people don't have the same rules of engagement. They aren't governed by the same American laws. So you can ask them to do things that are unequivocally inhumane.
Torture.
Right. Torture.
My homeboy literally will say, I'll be back. Gotta go over to Afghanistan, kill about 5 people, and get this 150,000 and come back. Like he talk like I don't know how he has not lost his mind. Like
maybe
he talks regular like we've always talked as kids growing up. Right. He acts like I'm just going to get something to drink and I'll be back in 6 months to a year. Like that's how he talks.
Does he miss it?
See, things like that are interesting because that conversation is usually never had in public. They have those in private, and if your friend was ever brought out into the public light, they would say, oh, he's the exception, he's not the rule, as if that isn't what people promote all the time.
Yeah.
So what about the idea of not just paid mercenaries, but there's this idea with American foreign policy where, and you touched on it with ISIS, where instead of using mercenaries, we will, and I'm sure other countries do this as well, but we will arm tribal groups, will arm terrorist organizations.
Those are mercenaries. They don't happen to be American mercenaries. The interesting thing about contractors is this. For example, there are people who served in Iraq, right? Yeah. As contractors that are not American citizens. They're from El Salvador. They're soldiers from Liberia. They're soldiers from another part of the world, but they're cheaper to hire than it would be to take a guy from the Army.
They're stealing the jobs.
Right, a guy from the Army. It's not that they're stealing the jobs. It's that if you're paid on the front lines to do certain things, you're going to have to put yourself in a position of danger that maybe you weren't really prepared for. This isn't a glorious mission. We're not protecting the state of America. A company hired us to secure an oil field in Nigeria. And anyone who touches the oil field, we're going to kill them. And there are no consequences for that. There's no accountability. So I think there's
what about the ones we're not paying? What about the holy wars that exist out there? The ones that we essentially will arm? Because didn't we initially arm ISIS to fight against Assad, right, in Syria.
Thank you.
So Assad is you know this more than I, so maybe you can explain the backstory, but of what's happening in Syria right now, and how the U.S. government will arm certain groups and stage what they call a proxy war so basically to keep, and they'll under the guise of we want to protect American soldiers,
right.
So what we'll do is just give these guys weapons, but then all of a sudden we've armed the people that we're now fighting against.
Well, I really appreciate that you brought that up. We have a long tradition for the past, I would say, the decade and even longer than that, of talking about radical Islam in this country. Mm-hmm. Probably ever since 9/11, it's become a much more public conversation.
Absolutely.
But I think something that was never touched on is all the times, just as you've brought up, where we've used radical Islam for our designs, right? Mm-hmm. I visited Afghanistan in 2009.
Built the orphanage,
there,
right?
Right. And what I discovered there when I talked to the people is they said, yes, when the United States came here, they told us that the Russians were going to ban the Quran, right? Now, the Russians were an empire similar to us, only under the guise of communism. They pretended everything was going to be equal. But when they got together, brother, what did they discuss? Mm-hmm. Lenin, Marx? No. Mm-hmm. They discussed what natural resources they were ripping out of Eastern Europe or the Caucasus or Afghanistan. Sure. So we do the same thing. It's not any different. The only difference is that when we do these things, we come to a place where we say, okay, these people are going to ban your religion. You have to fight against them. Therefore, you should foment a holy war. This isn't the first time it happened. In World War I, when Germany allied itself to the Turks, what was the Turks' position? Okay, the Europeans are coming into our country all the time. They want to take it over. They want to control Transjordan, which is Israel and Palestine. They want Egypt. They want everything. So we can't allow them to have that. We'll declare a holy war against that. Many people have used Islam for their own designs, but I also remind you a very important thing.
Including Muhammad, by the way.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, if we want to go way, way back, and before we get to that, we can discuss about how half the Crusades, for example, sir, are not against Muslims, and that's surprising to people.
All religion is spread through war.
But
the Jews.
But I think that that's not true. I think when we look at that, we read the Bible, right?
Yeah, but I don't think Judaism is spread through war because they're not trying to recruit people.
Moses, when he landed in the Holy Land, there were people there in the Bible, and he slaughtered them. You don't remember the story of Joshua?
But not in terms of
wait.
If you don't join our religion, you're slaughtered. You understand what I'm saying? There's a difference between spreading ideology and spreading land, right? So Jews have always had this. I'm not Jewish, by the way. Most people assume, so I'm not like pining for something like that.
No, it's not about that. I'm just gonna finish what you're going to say.
What I'm saying is like, so Judaism is I don't know if there are other monotheistic religions that are like this, but is this idea where it's like, hey, this is our crew. You got to be born into this shit. If you're not Jewish, I'm not trying to make you Jewish. Right. So I might fight you for this land, right? Which people have been fighting over land since the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. But animals fight over land. This is just what we do. But it's not, hey, if you're not going to join this religion, I'm going to kill you. It's, hey, you got that shit right there and it's got a pond next to it. I want it. Be out.
Or it'll say, if you're not part of this religion, then you don't have the same rights as we do in this country.
Absolutely.
That's another one.
Absolutely. But it's not to spread an ideology. You understand the difference I'm trying to make?
I think the point you're making is slightly different than what you're saying. What you're saying is that they don't engage in the active conversion of people.
Yeah.
It's not like we advertise the club. You want to join the club? Read the Torah. Get this stuff down. When you're done, you can come back and you can fill out an application.
Even then, you might not be able to get in, though.
It's not just that we have a wide selection. But what I will say is, going back to the previous topic, half the Crusades weren't against Muslims, and that surprises a lot of people. Half the Crusades were against Christians to consolidate the power. And that's what I ask people. When you look at the Middle Eastern world, over the past 20, 30 years, have those people gained freedoms, lost freedoms, or are they in the same quagmire of totalitarian society and religious extremism that they've been in for a particular period of time? I would say they're about the same level of fuckery. And when you look at us, you ask the fundamental same question. Have we gained freedoms or have we lost freedoms since 9/11? And unequivocally, we can all say that we've lost freedoms.
Absolutely.
So how can it not be an outer war for the inner consolidation of power, which is what we're dealing with right now? When we look at the American empire, we are an empire. We keep our troops wherever we invade. We never left Japan. We never left Germany. We've never left any of these other places. It's not that America isn't a great country. Yes, it's a great country. It has great power. But just because I invent a better killing machine, does that mean that my culture is superior to yours? No.
Do you think America's trying to do global colonization?
I think America and a lot of other countries have been in the global colonization route for a long time, but I don't think it's indicative of just America. For example, Britain was in this business for a long time before.
Of course. That's why we all speak English.
And they passed the business to us. Like, imagine if this brother, his father started a business and he says, you know what? I've had enough. I'm getting 70 years old. I can't do this anymore. Son, take over the business. That's exactly what Britain did with the Middle East. What was Britain's when they divided up the Ottoman Empire, right? They took Egypt, they took Transjordan, which is Israel, Palestine, and Jordan, right? They took Afghanistan, which they were never able to hold, right? And then the French took Lebanon and Syria. So the French's issue has always been Lebanon, Syria. That's why they wanted to bomb that, and that's why the Britons voted no to go there. And what happened? When it was time for Iraq, that wasn't France's slice back in the day. They said, that's your problem. You deal with that. So everything that used to be England's problem is now our foreign relations nightmare in that place. Our problem is Egypt. If there's a problem in Israel and Palestine, they don't go to fucking London to complain anymore. They come here and say, hey, listen, you guys are selling weapons to these people and we need you to either rein them in or to have a conversation in which we set up some kind of peace treaty. When the King of Jordan needs to be back because everybody else is getting thrown out of power, what happens? We step in. When it was time for the Britons to take over Iran, which they did for a considerable period of time, who's now the primary antagonizer with Iran? We are, because we took over the business. The only problem is we're only willing to take the chain so far up the ladder. We'll say, oh, we have Hamas, they're dangerous, they're connected to Hezbollah, which is connected to Iran, but we never go higher than that. Why? Why stop there? Do you know why, Charlemagne? Because if we go high enough, we realize that it's still a proxy war, like you mentioned before, where Russia is the one that's creating all the weapons or manufacturing them for a lot of these people, and we've continuously been locked in a cycle with them. Now, the Russians will laugh because they'll say, oh, you think we have no right to the Caucasus region, to Azerbaijan, to Chechnya? Okay, I have as much right to that as you have to tell the people around the world over there what the fuck to do, because you're not from there. We divided this up very evenly.
Well, they got Chechnya already.
Right.
Chechnya is part of Russia.
Right, but it was part of a much larger federation of people. But I remind people, when you look at that war, it wasn't like a bunch of Muslim extremists the way it was painted. It was like if the people of Florida went to war with the United States of America, right, and they were bombarded. You know, there were schools that were opened where kids from that region were told, okay, we're about to be invaded by this country, by our own country. We need to stand and fight. And these weren't all religious extremists. These weren't even all Muslim people. These were regular Chechnyan people who said, what the hell is going on? Florida's being invaded. Imagine if you were from the South or one of those regions that's very proud to be from there, and they told you the federal government was coming to invade your state. Oh, please. They'd enjoy that. And they'd say, oh, finally, we get a do-over from 1865. Yeah, okay? It's not going to end nicely, bro. You're fighting the empire. They don't give a fuck who you are. Poor white, poor black, poor Latino. Fuck you, get in line, because gold is the currency of kings, silver is the currency of gentlemen, and debt has always been the currency of slaves.
Do you think that the Democratic Party has adopted a lot of the Republicans' values or agenda, so to speak?
Well, I feel like they're very different when they present themselves on social platforms, right? But they both feed things that are never going to happen. For example, the right wing, they have a lot of their religious base that really wants them to outlaw abortion. And the sad truth is that that's never going to happen. The Republicans have been feeding these religious people a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. You're not going to ban that in this country. Whereas the left's Achilles heel has always been the fact that they want a bigger slice of the pie, the unions, the workers, everybody, but they never ask, who was cooked in this pie? Who had to stand on a conveyor belt for 18 hours while this pie was made? So you'll have a person like Barack Obama that says, listen, Black Lives Matter. I'm glad to hear that from the president, but the problem is that Black lives can't just matter in this country. If you want to hold up a picture of Tamir Rice, you want to hold up a picture of Trayvon Martin, well, Mr. President, I have a picture of a young black and brown child who was blown away by your drone strikes in East Africa or in Asia. What's the excuse for his death? Remarkably, you're going to hear from Democrats, from these right-wing liberal so-called progressive people, the same excuse that you'll hear from the most racist Republicans about why a little black child needed to die over a BB gun, or for the lady today, Corinne Gins, over some parking tickets. You gonna send SWAT to someone's house for parking tickets? Another brother dies in his own project in in Brooklyn, and there's an excuse for that, right?
Real
Instead
quick,
of accountability.
Can't multiple things be wrong? I don't like it when people discredit one wrong with another wrong. Like, for example, Black Lives Matter in America, so that shouldn't count because there are black people that America kills in another country. Both of those things can be wrong.
Absolutely, sir.
So when he says Black Lives Matter here, we should applaud that, and then we should also go, hey, we also want to hold you accountable for other Black lives, but not, hey, you're saying that Black Lives Matter here, but they don't mean over there, so you don't really mean this one.
I asked Malcolm on Hill the same thing earlier. I was just like, and can't we combat both? Kind of, you know what I mean?
I think the point you bring up is very important, because without that accountability and without pressing the people who are supposed to represent us, like I always asked, to your point right now, where are the anti-war rallies, right, that were around the Bush era? Where did they all go?Id the war stop?
Yeah,
Did people stop being killed?
That's when America was united. No, that's real. Right before Obama came into office, we all collectively were anti-war.
Right. Yeah.
Like everybody. Like it wasn't no one thing. Like it was all anti-war before he came into office.
Well, look, a lot of people, they never.
So what did happen? What do you think did happen? And I want to eventually get to solutions, because we can talk,
Absolutely.
Charlamagne says all this all the time, that we can talk all day about what's wrong, but what are we doing to make change?
Absolutely.
So I do want to get to that, but what do you think happened to those protests? Like what happened? Was it just liberal? Was it anti-Republican liberal sentiment that was anti-war? And the second we got a Democratic president, we were like, I guess everything's good now. We don't have to protest. Okay, we got what we wanted.
There are people who use that war as a political tool, who would say, hey, listen, we have to stop these wars, when you're right. They're the same people that voted for the Iraq war in the first place.
Right.
As a matter of fact, Hillary Clinton is one of those people.
Right.
And I think that deserves to be mentioned. I don't think that people should escape their accountabilities just because they represent a party that's supposed to be more progressive. Somebody could come in wearing any type of coat. They're wearing the coat of a doctor. Does that mean they're a doctor? No. You actually have to prove yourself as a doctor. You could say you're a martial artist, but if I hook off on you and you knocked out with one punch, then the whole room here is going to not think you're much of a martial artist.
What happened to your black belt, bro?
Exactly. Do you represent those ideals, or is that just what you use to garner support?
So what are your
people?
Politics?
Well, I mean,
I did a horrible job of introducing the Immortal technique, by the way.
We should get back, man.
He's a rapper. He's an activist. His rhymes have always talked about global issues, things that are going on around the world. Do you take the title activist?
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm not coming here to speak to you as a liberal or as a progressive. I come to speak to you as a revolutionary. And that means that I don't think that the system was ever designed for me, right? And I'll elaborate on that, and I'll use an interesting example involving the ancient Hebrew people. When they were brought to Egypt and enslaved by Pharaoh, did Pharaoh think one day they would be integrated into the population?
Probably not.
Did they think that they would one day, oh, hey, you know what we can do one day? They can just hold hands and we can sing Kumbaya, and you know what we'll do? We'll starve ourselves and we'll have a sit-in so everyone can use the same bathroom. No. There was a perfect line where they decided that one people would be permanent slave labor for the rest of eternity, right? And some radical notion introduced to us through the gospel, if you believe in that or not, decided that God said no. I'm not going to do this, right? So when you introduce something as powerful as God into the issue, then you have a justification for a various amount of things, either good things or bad things. For example, what is a monarchy, right? It's just a dictatorship in which you decide that God made you king, right? I say, whoa. Why else would everybody, let's say that each one of you represents 1,000 people. Why else would all these thousands of people die for one person's greed? Well, it's not one man's greed. It's the will of God. How dare you say
that makes sense.
You know what I mean? How dare he say anything? Throw him in chains. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I don't believe that the system was designed for us, and I feel like for us to get anywhere, we have to get to a square that's
Give your background, though. Give your background. You're originally born in Peru.
Yes.
Lima.
Yes.
You come to New York when you are...
Oh, okay. That's a funny story. My father tells me that we experienced 1,200% inflation a year in Peru during the time in which I was born. So I remind people, if you're watching this show in the United States of America, imagine going to the store with $100 to purchase groceries, and they tell you this $100 isn't worth that. It's only worth $20. Then you go back there the next month and they say, hey, this $100 is only worth $5. Next month you go back and they say, hey, I don't know why you have this worthless piece of paper. We're on a new currency now. Then there was a virtual civil war between Maoist guerrillas from the left and a CIA-backed paramilitary from the right. And in order to find peace and quiet, I always tell my friends that my father moved us to Harlem in the 1980s.
In the middle of the crack era.
Harlem in the 1980s. I lived right up the block from Grant houses on Amsterdam, right in Harlem.
Yeah.
And I was exposed to a lot of things, but one of the things I was first exposed to was hip hop culture. And it was because I felt like it had no barriers. Now, a lot of people say they say rightfully so that hip hop is a black art, absolutely. But the beautiful thing about the origin of hip hop is that in order to be part of hip hop back in the day, you needed to have skill.
That's it.
You needed to have
talent.
If you could be in that cipher and someone could diss you and you could hold your own, it didn't matter. I remember watching when I was a little kid, and they're written out of history, the women that rapped, right? It wasn't just the famous ones like Latifah and Light. There were underground MCs that were women that were rapping. There's still them now, such as Jean Grey. There are people like Snow. There are people
Rhapsody.
that Rhapsody, definitely, and people that represent that. And there were also people that were Latino, people that were white, that had skills. And I felt like, wow, if this is an art form that really judges people, because they can't see you at first, right? All they could do is hear your voice and hear your lyrics, and it's undeniable. So let's say you hate white people. That you can't deny Eminem's skill. Let's say you hate black people. You can't deny a person's intelligence such as yours.
First time I heard Eminem, I didn't even know he was black.
Even right-wing people that hate you, Charlamagne, they can't deny your intelligence. They can't walk into a battle with you unprepared because they'll get served.
Absolutely.
This is the premise of hip hop that I loved. That's what I enjoyed about the culture. It was no holds barred, and it was a lot of obviously braggadocio, ego, but at the same time, I felt like it encapsulated what I saw as America, which was, hey, get it while you can because it might not always be here.
What was your culture before hip hop? I mean, I know where you're from, but like, what was it? Like, what was your thing? Because when you come to hip hop, you start wearing your hat backwards. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I never wore my pants backwards, if that's what you asked me. I never went full crisscross. Okay. But I mean, in Harlem, of course, we still tuck our ears in with the fitted. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're flashy in that sense.
How old were you when you came?
About 3 years old.
Oh, so you were created here?
Yeah.
Pretty much, but the first languages that I ever learned were in South America. First language was Spanish, my second language was French, and then when I came here, I had to speak English. So I learned very, very quickly.
Do you think that moving to Harlem was advantageous for you because you could assimilate easier looking like a Latino there?
Well, I am Latino there, but I mean,
but you know what I'm saying? You could be a white-looking Latino and then all of a sudden be looked at as like a white dude.
Very different.
But you could be Puerto Rican. Like when you're walking down the street, somebody's not going to go, oh, he's from Peru. He immigrated here. We don't know that we're going to ostracize him. But they look at you like, oh, yeah, there's Pun, there's Fat Joe, there's Immortal. You know what I mean?
My mother's father, I remember I grew up with a very different analysis of race than a lot of other people because my mother always reminded me that her father was black and that his family had immigrated to Peru a long time ago. And the family story is that his great-grandmother had bought her way out of slavery in the Caribbean, and which is where they're from the West Indies, his side of the family. And they had purchased land because in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that was one of the places where they were selling land to anybody. So imagine if you and your family are newly free black slaves and nobody wants to sell you nothing, and you hear about a place in which they're saying, hey, I'll sell you land. You can grow your own crops. You can live however you want. That sounds like a much better option than staying in an ex-slave haven. So a lot of people moved there from there. Yeah. So I grew up with an appreciation for that. I also grew up in a city in New York from the 80s and 90s that I always tell people was the most diverse but the most segregated city that I've seen.
You found this. I grew up here in the city too.
Right.
So you found it segregated.
Of course. First of all, I'll tell you right now.
I think of Harlem as black.
I went to go pick up my shorty 1994 from Bensonhurst one time, and yeah, it was segregated.
Man, you're talking about the boroughs, bro. Brooklyn's still like that. But
you mean all in New York?
I was in New York City. I was everywhere. Mind you, I came into hip hop, and this is an important thing. I came into hip hop not as an MC. I actually came into and was introduced to hip hop as a graffiti writer. And that's what I did first, because there are 4 elements, right? There was DJing, there was MCing, there was the B-boy, and there was graph. Yep. And then, of course, there's the 5th element, which is knowledge, but that's a different story. We'll get into that later. But I learned how to write graffiti. I was into art. I thought it was interesting. And I was always told by the elders in there that whatever you do, they'll never see it the way they see their own people. But make no mistake, the person that writes on the wall, he's a Van Gogh. right? He's a Picasso. It's just you can't see it because he's in that form, right? If this person
I can't
was
see it because
somewhere
I
else-
fucking own the building.
Right, well, there's that too, but there's a difference in between scrolling "suck my dick" on your building because we hate you, or because somebody writes a piece and a beautiful artwork.
Not
which
to
is-
me. If I own the fucking property and you drawing anything on the property, I'm gonna be pissed off.
It might raise the. It depends who the artist is.
That ain't raising no value.
If Banky draws on your wall
If
right
Becky
now,
draws on
it's
your
worth
wall,
something.
it's worth more than it was before.
Banksy can suck my dick.
if-
Don't
if-
draw
if-
on my
hold on.
fucking building, okay?
Hold on.
Don't
You might be
draw
Banksy.
on
You
my
don't know
fucking
Banksy.
building.
Let's pick a better one. Let's pick a better one. Let's pick a better one. If Keith Haring, who was a street artist,
Yeah.
draw on your wall,
Yeah.
right? That's gonna make your shit more valuable.
I don't want it.
You don't
I
want
don't
Keith
want
Haring?
it because if I give Keith
You gonna tell a
Haring,
dead man to suck your dick? Is
both
that
of them.
Oh, Jesus!
Let me
Christ.
tell you, and
now
I had a
know.
Keith Haring.
We're not on a regular radio
Hey,
show. We're not on a regular
Immortal,
radio.
He's a white devil. Come on.
Listen,
All right.
real talk. I
There's
grew
no
up with a
definition.
Keith Haring in my room, a lithograph, and not a lithograph, just a copy of it. So I'm familiar with Haring.
You threw it out.
No, we didn't throw it out. My brother actually sold that shit. Greg was going through an eBay phase when he was just selling all of our folk stuff.
So
without
he
them
had a
knowing.
Keith Haring painting?
It was not a real one. It was a print.
Okay,
What do you call it? A reprint or something like
All
that.
right,
There's,
yes,
you know.
yes.
But the point is like I feel like we give graffiti writers this like free ride. Like, oh yeah, they're just out there making art. No, you're writing on someone else's shit. Get a piece of paper, do it on a fucking piece of paper, do it on something else like that, and then when you're really good, someone will pay you, to put it on a chapel.
You know what's so funny about graffiti? People give it such a bad rap, call it vandalism, whatever. There's not a TV show, not a movie. Don't care if it's black, don't care if it's white, who does not use New York City and graffiti as a backdrop. If it's based in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, to make it look shitty.
No,
Yes,
to give
that's
that
how-
to give that
to
appeal.
make it look cultured.
No,
like it
to
looks
make
New
it look
York.
shit. There's more to diversity than graffiti and writing on people's shit. Okay,
You own a building?
I don't own a building. What are we talking about? I own a. Get the fuck out! But my
You own
family.
a panel truck, right?
No,
And
no.
then when somebody drew on your truck, man, come on.
I don't
dude.
own the whole building. My family owns a floor in a building, right? So every day we would walk into the building and somebody draws some stupid fucking graffiti on the door, so we got to clean the door. And there's no accountability, there's no
That's why he hates
responsibility
it.
for that.
Your daddy's like, go
No,
clean the
but
fucking
for
door,
real,
Andrew.
Your dad make
Real
you
talk.
clean
No,
the
he
shit?
didn't make me clean it, but it is the same shit. It's just like on a
cleaned
much a lower level. It's like you say that you're against like America going to other countries and fucking up their shit. Well,
think
you got
there's a
graffiti
big- wait,
artists.
wait, wait,
You
wait,
got
wait, wait.
graffiti artists
I
coming into
don't
my
think-
country,
I don't think
serving
that there's a-
proxy wars
that there's
and
soft
fucking up my
Spray
shit.
can
I
bombing
don't-
and drone
I-
bombing
listen,
are
this
two different extremes.
This is a
yo.
trans Schultz building,
I think that
and
we
the-
could only say that that's the most absurd rationale and false
You
equivalency.
don't know
I've
Andrew
heard.
Schultz,
How
but
no?
that's what he
That's the
specializes
same
in.
thing, dog. You
Okay.
going
Wait,
into
wait,
areas that are not yours.
Where are you from, Andrew?
I'm from Manhattan.
No, well, your family.
My mom was born and raised in Scotland, and my dad's a New Yorker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Scottish, right, and British and people like that, they
Well,
used to wait,
Scottish. Keep it funky because-
the Scots part of the UK now, right?
Yeah,
Aren't they?
but
you guys voted to
reluctantly.
stay. You voted to stay, right?
We voted to stay in the
voted to
European
stay.
Union, not in the UK.
You voted to stay
Yeah.
in the UK. You had a referendum, right?
We had a referendum where we did vote to stay in the UK, but that's so that we could stay in the European Union. We didn't want to isolate
left
ourselves
the-
from the
when they
UK.
left the
Now, when
European
the
Union.
Brexit happened, we actually voted to stay in the EU, and we want to stay in the EU. More than 50% of Scottish people voted to stay in the EU. So in the Brexit,
Do you have dual citizenship?
nah, I don't.
Oh, I said because you said we a lot. I figured you know.
Well, when you say
play the
Peruvian, right, you say
bagpipes?
we, right?
Yeah, that's different. Like, do
How
you,
so?
do you speak the Scottish language?
Do I
You know
speak
a lot of-
Gaelic?
Gaelic.
No, nobody in Scotland speaks it.
No, I'm saying like the actual culture of the people. They were Picts, right? A long time ago.
Who was?
The Scots.
Celtic.
Before they were Scott, they were Celtics and they were Picts, right?
Picts. I don't. Okay.
Right. Well, because at that time they found the origin is that.
But
the
do you
Romans
speak like
invaded
the
at time.
Indian, the native languages of
Quechua,
Peru?
Runasimi, or Manancanchu? Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit, or
Sure,
you
of
speak
course.
it?
No, and
I could say slancha.
Slancha. All right, that's different. That's like one thing.
I could say
That's
cheers.
different. No.
That doesn't mean that I fucking speak it.
Conversationally, not as well as other people, but definitely I grew up.
You know
understanding-
enough words.
and understanding that was the original language of the people.
Well, I understand the original language, but yeah.
to get back to what you were saying, no, I mean, look, people would mark their territory in all different ways, right?
But it's not your territory.
and neither was anything anybody's territory. Who decided that it was that territory?
When my parents spent hard-earned money.
Wait. And who did they buy it from? Someone else who stole it from someone else, right? If we're going back and we're really going back all the way, then we got to say that it wasn't even their territory to write on in the first place. I should be asking some Native American tribe in Jersey and say, hey, is it all right if I graffiti this fucking building that was built on your graveyard? Yeah, sure.
But why is it theirs? They also came here.
Yeah, but they were the first people.
Were born here?
When question. So the land belongs to the people that were originally there. So if China invades Scotland and they decide to set up shop after 100 years or so, they can just say, no, we're the real Scots and you're not.
You must not be familiar with Scotland. That's what happened. Watch Braveheart.
No. I'm familiar with the story of Britain consistently invading your country.
My point is, you're trying to make the argument that land is owned by the first person that gets there.
No, I'm making the argument that the land's technically not owned by anyone. So if you tell someone that you want to do that or do something with it in a society in which, for example, and I'm glad you bring this up because Picts, Celts, also Germanic peoples, before they were Christianized forcibly by Britain and they were forced to accept British feudalism, these people, his people, had sort of a white indigenous interpretation of society, right? The Vikinger were the same way. They were people who saw the earth not as a regular thing you could take, but as a living being. They said, you know what? The earth doesn't belong to us. We belong to the earth.
Absolutely.
So if you want to actually go that far back, we can have a discussion based on that. But the premise that I'm trying to point out is that after feudalism and after the idea that someone could then own something else, and this was all backed by God, and this was all necessary, that's when it became...
so back in the day when we believed that we were part of the earth and we didn't own it, and let's say...
Who said someone could write on a pyramid, though, right?
My
Who said
point,
someone could write here?
Exactly.
Who said someone could write there?
Or write on my
Nobody
teepee.
did.
Like if another tribe came into my Native American Iroquois tribe and some Cherokees rolled up and they started painting deer all over the outside of my
But what
teepee.
if it was people from your tribe and that was their building and that was their neighborhood and they wanted to paint it?
If you are an equity owner in a building and you want to paint some shit on the building and everybody agrees to paint some shit on the building, guess what? That's your right. Now, if you don't even
If you invite artists to come paint on your building.
Absolutely. Please paint. Please paint. Let's
where did
provide
these artists get
opportunity.
This is a classic New York argument, by the way. The graffiti artist versus the owner of the building.
He knows he's wrong.
Versus the descendants of...
He knows he's wrong. No, you do.
You know that you're wrong. You know that.
I'm wrong that you should be able to paint on my building whatever you want. How selfish is that?
That you have the opportunity to tell me what I should and shouldn't do in my own neighborhood?
It's my building. Do you have a building?
You're in my neighborhood.
Do you have a building?
Do I own a building? No.
Do you live in a building?
Yes, I live in a building.
So then paint that. You pay for that. Paint that.
They do, though.
Painted their building too.
That's
right. The first place they painted, Mr. Schultz.
And nobody complained.
That's where they were practicing.
And I'm cool with it. It's when you come over to my hood and you don't even ask my permission.
How old are you? Just
32.
All right, so 32. So he's a little bit younger. He only caught the end of the 90s like that when he was let out the house. So during the 80s, I think.
But what does that have to do with it?
No, because there's a difference. I think when we talk about like the 1980s in New York versus the 1990s, I think that you're talking about a different city where graffiti culture was definitely put up in terms of the art. There are things about graffiti culture that I don't agree with. Like, for example, when I was a kid, we used to commit violence on people who wrote over us and stuff like that. Looking back on that as an adult, I know that's nonsensical. That's stupid. And there are a lot of things that are connected to stuff. Like even we'll say, oh man, New York was so much better back then. Actually, it wasn't necessarily better. It had a lot more exposure to culture, and it was more naked. But at the same time, brother, people were getting killed over Reebok pumps, right? Yeah. Them shits didn't make you jump higher. They just made the side of the shoe tighter. The people getting killed over 8-ball jackets. There's a dude watching whose family's watching this right now who he's upstate because he shot somebody over a piece of shit jacket that's out of style right now. So, I mean, you're right. There's a classic amount of examples of you can see the difference in between where it started and where people started really to just create characters and stuff like that to where it became a full-blown art where someone says, okay, now that it's this. The only problem that I have with that is who legitimized this? Rich $1 million white-owned corporation said that all of a sudden this person's artist and this isn't. Why should that person's opinion be the benchmark about who gets to decide what's art?
Absolutely
At
agree.
some point, everybody has a First Amendment right. I do agree that if you're going to sit there and you're going to write profanity or crazy shit on someone else's building, it would be much preferred if you engage them as an individual. And this is what I've seen a lot of artists do now. They'll come up to someone and say, hey, listen, I have this black book. I'll show you. This is what I want to do. This is it. I think that
that's all I'm asking for.
The difference is though that those people had to learn that from somewhere in some capacity.
But think about that. Like imagine your grandmother, right, who left the Caribbean, right, and she took all the money that she saved, and then she went to Peru, and she finally bought this land, where she was something she called her own. And then somebody just came and didn't even ask her and started writing
on her crops?
what they thought was art.
Drawing on the crops.
Well, maybe their art was burning crops, right? And they did crop circles.
But that's different.
But
No. You're making it equivalent of destruction. Nobody bombed the building. Nobody made a building look like rubble.
You don't think that having graffiti all over a building can possibly lower its value?
Depends on how good it
It
looks.
absolutely can
Banksy
lower its
is
value in the
celebrating.
market.
But that's the difference. We keep bringing up Banksy.
No, because he's celebrating.
We love Banksy. He hates Banksy.
So we got one guy. I actually like
but that-
Banksy. I think Banksy's good.
You
But
just told him to suck your dick. He's watching this shit
mad
right
people
now.
can suck my dick.
But
He invited Banksy to
But
the
it's funny to me
No,
because
I'm not like that, Banksy.
because guys like Banksy are celebrating. I think what he does is dope. You know what I'm saying? But back in the day, you had about 1 million Banksys in New York City,
Right.
and they got scrutinized for it,
As they should.
which is weird.
Just
to me.
ask permission. That's all I'm asking. It's like
Banks
somebody.
you don't ask for permission.
Listen, my
Ain't
mom
nobody
stopped.
asked for permission when they gentrified the hood, right? Ain't nobody asked for permission when they came here
Wasn't
and they
that
said
wrong?
the center.
Wouldn't you argue that that's wrong when they gentrify the hood? Because you're going to make the
Are you
argument
railing
that that's,
on them as hard as you rail on graffiti writers?
can't two things be wrong? That's what you do.
But I
and a lot of people
wanna
do,
hear-
though.
but I wanna
I'll
hear
be
that.
honest. A lot
But
of
I wanna hear
activists
that.
do this shit
But I
where they
wanna
go,
hear that.
"Hey, since this is also wrong, that other thing can't be wrong."
No.
We were talking about
That's
this
not
earlier.
true. That's not true.
Do
I'm
you
not
think
saying
gentrification of the hood is wrong?
I think that if people don't own their property and they've never been able to have an addition to, I think that's absolutely that there's an interesting factor that's involved there. And I'll bring up other things that make it that way, right? For example, the difference in between the way that white immigrants came to this country and other Black and Latino immigrants in the country is totally separate, right? And I'll explain it in this fashion. When your ancestors and when other people from France or Eastern Europe or Armenia or Greece or Italy came to this country, they didn't just apply for citizenship, brother. They applied to be white. Why? Because Mr. Schultz, if they weren't accepted as white people, you know what you couldn't get? A loan from the bank. You couldn't join a police union, and that's political power in any country. You couldn't join the fire department, right? So that whole narrative of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is horseshit because people had advantages they don't even understand that they had. So if we then corral that and we say, okay, who gets to decide what is necessarily right or wrong in a society? The people who automatically took it over and have created the laws for themselves, right? If we really are a free society, that means that you can do anything. However, I'm not going to sit here and dispute that if you go and ruin someone else's property in some fashion, right? And that you've caused damage in some way, shape, or form, right? That necessarily is right or wrong. That's fucked up if you're going to do that to somebody. Now, I'm not saying that that's right. When I was a kid, I did a lot of things that are wrong.
We all did.
I'm not sitting here trying to draw an equivalency, and I'm not trying to draw a false equivalency either. So don't put me in the same category as people that like to say that one thing is wrong, because I know that if you go to jail for fucking robbery, you can't turn, oh man, I should be let out because the guy
he
next to
killed
me,
somebody.
you know, no,
Absolutely.
I understand that there's.
I'm just saying, if you own something, just like you or any of us own something, we should be able to decide or have a say in what we think makes it look beautiful.
But
right?
that's the problem. Who decided that that person would own that? That's the issue that you're not touching on.
So you don't think anybody can own
No,
anything?
I'm not saying anybody can own things. You're taking what I'm saying and then drawing your own story based on the first line. Give me a second, Hemingway.
Okay.
Before we do that, I appreciate no. But I'm just saying.
You can call me great writers all day, baby. That's good.
So before we go anywhere, Dostoevsky, we have to say, we got to say that we have to decide and have to have a conversation about how this property got here in the first place, right? Who decided that this was this person's property? How was it bought? A lot of things, when you look at it in Harlem, like for example, when I was there as a child in the 80s, brother, they were giving away brownstones, right? $500 for a fucking brownstone.
Sure.
Now you can't buy a bombed out brownstone in Harlem for anywhere less than $1 million. And it's not even renovated. It's a piece of garbage, right?
Okay.
But yet when people look at that, they say, oh man, what a perfect opportunity to come in there and take it. The problem is because people were redline districted, because they couldn't get a loan from the bank, they never had an opportunity the way other immigrants did to buy their actual houses, to purchase their property, in which you think they would actually have a say in what went on in their neighborhood.
I understand what
For
you're saying.
example, in on the Upper West Side, right? right near the museum where I'm a member of. They were going to build a big building, right? The entire Upper West Side community got together and said, wait a minute, what are the materials you're going to use to build this goddamn building? This is bullshit. They went to the churches, they went to the synagogues, they went everywhere, as they have the right to.
Sure.
That's their community. They should say, hey, you know what? It really is up to us to decide whether you can do this or not. And they made them change the plans. And I think that
Love that.
That should be something that we should be able to do. The only problem is that the political power never existed for people. And that is the main issue. If we're sitting here having a conversation about what's right or what's wrong based on someone else's property and who owns that, then the real question becomes who never had an opportunity to own their property in the first way. And that way, maybe we would have a different conversation. Maybe you'd be right, maybe you'd be wrong, but we'll never know because they never had that opportunity. Because just to finish that point, if people did own their homes, brother, maybe you're right. Maybe they would say, hey man, hold on. You know what we should do? We should set up a big free wall where people can write anything they want to, but since I own my home and we all own our homes in this neighborhood, you know what? This is bullshit. But because no one owned their home and everybody was sitting there a slave to some slumlord, that's why they didn't give a fuck if somebody graffitied it, because it wasn't theirs, right?
Yeah.
Even though they paid the rent, even though they made the community stand up, but they were a permanent underclass and permanent slave labor is how they felt. So they never had the opportunity to say, wait a minute, maybe if the property value increases, then I'm going to get something from that.
Yep.
People in the hood don't think like that because they don't necessarily own their land. Once they do, then they have a different attitude towards it. Look,
But I think you're kind of proving my point, because what you're saying is, since I can't empathize with the idea of owning property, I'm not going to care about how the owner of that property feels, when I think that we have to hold people accountable for not having empathy. Like when you have fucking white people that don't care that black people are getting killed by the police because they can't empathize with them because they don't see them on the same level as humans. I have an issue with that shit. I go, dude, you have to understand, this is a human being that you have to have empathy for. So if you're
proving my point, by the way.
So let me finish. My point is, so if you just write on this building because you're like, all right, well, fucking, I don't own some shit, so I don't have to care about other people own some shit. To be honest, I think that's a selfish act.
Wait 1 second. I want this cup to catch your white tears, because the building being graffitied is about the last thing fucking wrong with those buildings in the 80s. There was no water running for a lot of these buildings. Plus, I used to work when I got out of prison in 1999 in the Northwest Bronx.
Right.
These buildings had roach infestations like you've never seen, to the point where that's why people.
What does that have to do with it being right or wrong?
Because that's not the point that I'm making.
No, that's the point I'm making. No. You said I proved a point for you.
Because you complaining about some graffiti on the top of the building is the last.
More than one thing can be wrong.
It's the last shit that people.
Stop it with this.
Yeah, but if there's a hole
but
if there's a hole in your boat and you're
so I can punch someone in the face.
Wait. If there's a hole in the ocean, if there's a hole in your boat and you're rowing in the ocean, right, and your hat's dirty, what you gonna do first? Wash your hat or fix the hole, right? You're complaining and you're saying that your hat being dirty and the hole in the boat is the same fucking thing.
No, I'm not.
False equivalency.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to keep a consistency going on where we care about people.
Then keep a consistency about humane conditions, not about the condition of a fucking building on the outside of it.
See, you don't care about it because you don't own the building.
It's not
so why don't you have empathy? What I'm trying to
it's not a question, because you're having empathy for the public image of a building, not the people that are living inside. You're not actually having sympathy for human beings.
You
having
assume
sympathy.
everybody that owns a building is some rich fucking white dude.
No.
There are Latinos, there are black people that have spent their entire lives working to purchase that building, and you're just disregarding their fucking.
Please don't tell me that I think
their life.
Please don't tell me that I think all buildings are owned by white people. I never in remotely implied that. That's absurd. Second of all,
you've yet to say anything.
Everybody listen to each other. Everybody listen to each other.
Wait. We'll have coffee after this. It's all right. I don't like that brand, but it's all right. The point I'm trying to make is, and we can move on to another topic after you beat graffiti into another dead horse. Yeah. But the premise is this, that if we're complaining about what's wrong, right, there are wrongs like somebody being shoved, right? Like, oh my God, like when we talk about racism in this country, there's a false equivalency when people say, oh, you know what? I feel like somebody was racist towards me. Yes, people can be biased, but did somebody institutionally prevent you from having a job? Yes, people were treated like garbage. Your ancestors, people from Ireland, Scotland, they were treated like garbage when they came to this country. Yet, you know what? As bad as Jewish immigrants had it, as bad as Irish immigrants had it, they never had to justify their own humanity. You cannot draw an equivalency equivalency between that. When Hitler put those people in those ovens, he knew he was putting human beings in there. You know what? He hated their culture. He hated who they were. He hated their religion, but he didn't doubt that they were human beings. The difference is that me and this brother have actually had to justify our fucking humanity to a state. There's no equivalency between that. It's the same equivalency between crying over somebody's feelings because their building got fucked up, or saying, hey, listen, the people in the building are fucked up. And half of the times there was graffiti, the message was there. It wasn't just a ridiculous drawing. A lot of graffiti actually comes from political messages. The graffiti that exists.
But it doesn't matter if the owner cares about their building.
The graffiti in Eastern Europe, right, that I've seen in pictures was against communism, right? They said, hey, man, this is fucked up. This is wrong. Don't people have the right to protest against their government? If the building is fucked up, if there are no social services, don't people have the right to write something and say this is foul? What other recourse did they have? You know, I'm not saying that everything is right. I'm not saying that what they did is perfect in an example, but the people who aren't in the rebellion and aren't fighting against these things, I find it difficult to look at them as believable when they criticize people who are fighting in against the system. It's not like they're going.
So write on the system. Don't write on an innocent person's building who could be also afflicted by the same things you're going through. But just like what you said,
but I think
there are
that's
people.
Just like
you're
talking about the exception to the rule.
Disenfranchised folks.
The exception to the rule.
We're talking about disenfranchised folks, right? There are disenfranchised
folks. The building owners are disenfranchised.
There are disenfranchised folks that also own a building. If you're going to sit down here and tell me right now,
you know anything about the history of the Bronx or Manhattan?
Listen,
you lived here for a long time.
Listen, you're more well versed. Let me finish my point, and then we can get to knowing about the history. Let me finish my point.
Absolutely.
My point is there are disenfranchised folks, Latinos, blacks, right, that also happen to be building.
Plenty of white people are disenfranchised too.
Sure. Plenty of people that also happen to be building owners, right? And they're disenfranchised by systemic oppression and systemic racism in our country, right? These people also have the right to their hard work in those buildings they put up. Now, if you are writing graffiti for political purposes, which I'm sure there are many people that do, I think the mass majority is not for that, but I think there are many people that do it. But sure, let's say that's where it started. But let's even say that's what it is. Then write it on the things that you hate. Go to the city hall. Don't go to the innocent person that can't even defend themselves. They own a fucking building.
But they did do that.
And I'm with it. If you have a problem with that guy, take it over there.
So you don't mind
write it
writing
on Ronald. Ronald that you know, and Ronald that's worked his whole life to get this building.
So
and you're
going to
go, you know what? Ronald's not going to do nothing.
People, right?
First of all, reality of the matter, I don't think it's right to write. If it's breaking the law, it's breaking the law. But if you have a problem with City Hall, then write it on fucking City Hall. Take that up with them.
That's the problem. When you're talking about human rights,
you go down to City Hall. You don't go to Ron's house. You don't do a protest around Ron's house.
Sure, we do. We've done protests in front of plenty of slumlords' house.
Because that's who you're protesting. You're protesting the slumlord.
Assuming that Ron is a slumlord, right?
That's your assumption. I'm not saying he is.
Wait. If it's proved that he is, don't those people have a right?
Please go protest. Please. But what about someone who's not a slumlord?
To paint on someone's house if they're a slumlord and say, turn the water on.
No.
Wait. So people who have the water turned off in their building in the Bronx don't have the right to say, hey, turn the water on?
They have the right to sue. They have the right to take them to court. They have a right to punish those motherfuckers.
Dude, you've
never... have the right to protest. You have the right to do all these things. No children that I know of.
But you have children in your family, right?
Yeah.
If the water was off in their building, you're going to wait 6 months for a protest?
No, I'm telling you, I would never do that.
Okay, so then you're going to find whatever way you can to bring
absolutely.
Exactly, even if it means breaking the law. And
I think Andrew's assuming that graffiti was just some like shit people did for recreation, but you're breaking down the history of the fact that people did.
You think the majority of people doing graffiti were trying to create social change when they wrote Travis on a subway? Get the fuck out of here.
If a guy who wrote Travis,
kidding me?
If a guy who wrote Travis on a subway, right, is being put on an equal level with a person who writes social messages, then this is exactly why hip-hop is in the fucked up state that it is. Because you have a person who can be...
Are you familiar with Travis?
Wait.
Are you familiar with the graffiti artist?
Who can do an incredible amount of work, right? But then you have a person who has put no work in, and somehow they're the same thing. That's not the same thing.
Gotcha.
Two, hold on. It's the same thing.
It's like Trinidad James versus
how about
Jay-Z.
this? Imagine if this motherfucker played the trumpet and he studied with Branford Marsalis and he's a virtuoso, right? Mm-hmm. He learned when he was 3 years old. He's however old, 32, and he's an expert. I've never played the trumpet before in my life, even though I haven't played jazz trumpet. But if I come on stage, I sound like I'm playing a fucking kazoo, and this nigga's over here going off. You're gonna tell the difference. You're gonna be able to draw an equivalency and say, you know what? This person is an expert. This person is an amateur.
we shouldn't be able to do
Just
what he's
don't
doing,
play my trumpet.
which is drawing people with the same exact paintbrush.
Play your own trumpet is all I'm saying.
You're drawing people with the same paintbrush in terms of vandalism. They're not vandals. Some of these people are magnificent artists.
If you're doing it on and what makes you define if something's magnificent art? Hold on. Why are you able to define magnificent art? Just because something promotes social change?
No.
Van Gogh just did fucking self-portraits. That doesn't mean he's a magnificent artist.
You hate Van Gogh?
No. My point
I thought you were about to tell him this.
No. But look, I grew up.
Everybody gonna get it now.
I grew up in.
I love this show. Actually,
I grew up in an art family. You ain't
talked at all. You let this nigga do all the work.
Listen.
Wait a minute, you letting him do the heavy lifting today?
I want to get off this graffiti topic.
We off right now. I just want to make the point right now. Is right now you're making a value judgment on art. I grew up in an art family. Both of my parents are dancers. I've been around the arts my entire life. Now,
should they not be able to dance wherever they want to? Can they not dance?
No, they should not be able to go into your living room and fucking cha-cha.
Not in my living room.
Fucking no.
Nobody was dancing. Nobody was writing graffiti on other people's living rooms.
They should not be able to go to your porch.
Should they be able to dance in front of my house? Can they dance in front of my house?
Depends if the land in front of your house, in front of your house is...
Stop. Quit your job, become a lawyer. Oh my God. This thing got to become a lawyer.
It depends what illegal is. They should not be able to literally strap themselves onto the side of your building and do a fucking waltz up and down the side of your building. I do not think they should be able to.
What if I say it's okay for them to do that? No, don't tell me what I think. I'm talking about what I said, not what I think.
Okay, what you said is...
You're not a psychologist,
What you said is just...
Wait. You don't have a degree in psychology.
I do have a degree in psychology.
No, you do?
Yeah, from University of California, Santa Barbara. It's not a master's, it's a bachelor. Okay. So it means nothing. So you're just as much a psychologist as I am. Go on, read any Malcolm Gladwell book and you know just as much as me.
But at least you can teach at a public school, right?
Not even close. You need a master's to be a psychology professor. To be a teacher, I could. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is where you and I might feel like social justice can come through art, which I do agree with you absolutely. Like you can even go through the Renaissance and see how people feel about religion is portrayed through art. It's brilliant. But calling something art, which you and I both know, doesn't have to do with how we feel about it. Like just because somebody does write Travis or writes their name or writes something really shitty, that might be the best art in the world to them, and to us it might not be different, but we're not allowed to judge art. So right now you're going, it's justifiable to write this stuff on it because it's art and social change, but in reality that person writing their fucking name thinks that their art is just...
You just justified it from the standpoint of you understand why people do it.
Right. Look, my perspective is very clear in this. If people are going to rebel against an unjust system, right, you're going to tell them how they should rebel and what's acceptable and what's not. You know, if you're going to say to them, hey, you shouldn't throw all that tea in the water. Or you know what, you shouldn't form a militia and fight against this evil empire. You know what I mean? What right does anybody have to say that except the people that are stuck in there? And if we went by this person's interpretation of what people should do in terms of law and order, then the two of you would be using separate bathrooms right now. You know what I mean? The difference is that graffiti was a revolutionary art, that it challenged the status quo. Irrespective of how pissed off it was like people that complain about traffic being blocked when we're protesting people being shot over some shit. Yeah, is it fucked up? Absolutely. Are the things that we're trying to protest even more fucked up and we're trying to bring attention to even more fucked up? Absolutely. So yes, two things can be wrong at the same time.
But I agree with what you said. I agree with the idea of we shouldn't allow the powers that be to decide how we protest. That's a very powerful message right there, because they will never allow us to protest in a way effective enough to make change.
But that's what I always say. You can never tell somebody how to react to something.
By the way, support my brother Mark Warren Hill.
Great book.
Incredible book. I went to the first chapter while y'all were having an interview. I really loved it.
How did you become so well versed in a number of different things?
Well, I wanted to learn from other people's struggles and other people's history. So wherever I went and I toured in the world, I wanted to understand how they got to be what they were. You know what I mean? How did these people become Muslim? How did these people become Christian? How did these people invent their country? You know what I mean? I wanted to learn from different people's struggles. When I wanted to learn Latin American revolution, I had to study the Haitian revolution first because he supported Simón Bolívar. I wanted to learn the history of why people had all these issues with one another. So I decided to dig in deep. And when I learned about these things, I studied from people who studied very ancient history. And then I got involved in hip hop, but then I began teaching. And one of the places I taught was in a prison. I taught at Horizons. I'm going to teach there again after my court case was finished. But the point was that when I saw these things, I realized that I'm teaching ancient history. So I'm teaching these kids that when we talk about black history, we're not really talking about black history. We're talking about human history. We're talking about Sumeria, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the people that invented animal domestication, the people that the Hebrew people came out of. That's where Abraham destroyed the idols. And Ur is a Sumerian city, right? This is what we're talking about. Woodworking, metallurgy, all the things that we take for granted that built this place. Cosmetics. I mean, imagine people without makeup or trimming their beard. These were things that were invented there. When I talk to my ultra-religious relatives and they say, oh, well, that can't be, then I explain to them, okay, I'll take you to the museum. There's an exhibit on hominids, right, in the American Natural History Museum. And I say, well, Tati, imagine if you, right, never cut your hair, right, never brush your teeth, never used the string, right, or anything else, no wax, nothing, never had nice clothes, didn't take a shower, didn't cut your fingernails or your toenails, nothing, nothing for 40 years. What would make you look any different than this cave person in this exhibit right now, right? So we've come to a certain level and come to a certain place as a society. But in my mind, I feel like society's benchmark is the killing machine. Whoever creates a better killing machine is seen as the superior society. And that's wrong, because German culture wasn't superior to Jewish culture. They just invented better killing machines. They invented a better killing machine here when they said, hey, we're going to give these people genetic warfare, blankets, or these sort of things that are taken out of context about society. So when I wanted to learn about those things, it forced me to then acknowledge my own privilege and things too, right? I have a male privilege. I have all these other things that I've been granted. I have the privilege of citizenship. If I get arrested, I have a very different encounter with the law than someone that doesn't have any papers, right? I have the ability to have learned the history of this nation, right? And the history of other parts of the world. So there are things that are clearer to me. Like, for example, that Rome once had an African Caesar. His name was Lucius Septimus Severus. His mother was a noblewoman from Northern Africa, and his father was an equestrian from Rome. So this isn't the first time that a black man has held power over an empire. And yes, when Rome had a black Caesar, it never changed the nature of Rome. It was still an empire. It was still designed to take over things. That's what it was. So when I look at our society now and I say, well, where are we headed? We have here, which is an indication of where we were. We have here, which is where we are. And this is the trajectory where we seem to be headed. So I had the benefit also of working with a very, very learned man called Harry Belafonte, right?
Oh my God, OG.
An OG and a genius.
I met him this year for the first time, man.
And when I first had an opportunity to work with him, because he's actually the one that got me the teaching job. So big respect, Mr. B. And he said something to me. He said that he had a conversation with Martin Luther King Jr. when he was very young, still in his 20s. And that Martin leaned over to him and he said that he feared he was integrating his people into a burning house. And that was the thing that really stuck with me. And I thought, wow, we all want to be part of this country, but do we realize that this country has been at war perpetually ever since its foundation, except for 20 years of peace in the Republic? So if you want to be part of this country, you have to realize that you're going to fight this country's wars, or you're going to be involved in it in one way or another, whether you think that's moral or not, or whether you excuse it through some other, back alley means that you feel somehow make you sleep better at night. No. Is it more difficult to live life this way? Sure. But at the same time, I feel gratified that I can at least show and teach these children that. And the other thing that we teach is creative writing, because I feel like that's a healing process. I feel like when a child or a person who's been through something traumatic writes about their life, that it automatically begins the healing. Because the vast majority of people that I've met, especially young people that are in prison, that are extremely violent, they're there and they're that way, brother, because they've been the victims of abuse their whole life. Either physical abuse, sexual abuse, and many times in these situations. And the problem is this: adults don't respect when a child says, leave me alone, don't touch me. But adults always respect when someone says, if you touch me, I'll fucking kill you. Right? Because now I'm not a little fucking baby anymore, Mr. Schultz. Now you got to take this seriously, even if you don't take me seriously. So I see that in these kids. So I see the way that they're criminalized for tiny little petty offenses like graffiti or vandalism. And if someone can be shot for fucking having a pound cake, for the way that the Corinne lady was shot this morning for having unpaid parking tickets, then it justifies someone getting shot or imprisoned for writing on a wall. Then it justifies them being shot or imprisoned for something that's not a punishable offense. And
you talking about the lady in Baltimore?
No. There was another one today that a woman who received the parking.
Yeah, I thought she was in Baltimore.
I'll look it up.
And they came to her house to serve the warrant,
and they shot her son too.
But she had a shotgun though.
She shot. Well, that's not illegal. It's not illegal to own a weapon in your
But
home.
no, when they opened the door, she was holding the shotgun.
And how many people have aimed guns at cops?
No, I'm with you. They didn't shoot her. They didn't shoot her in the beginning. There was a standoff for like hours.
Right.
And then I think they said cops shot at her and she shot back.
We won't ever know. We won't know the true story.
All right. But if she did aim a gun at a cop, I think you can't go, I think be surprised if she gets shot.
But at the same time, we're following a pattern here of things that I'll describe to especially the white people that are watching the show.
Gotcha.
They're testing the system on people that have the least amount of political representation.
Explain that, because we talk about, you said the killing machines.
Right.
And it kind of seems like that's what the police force is being used as now.
I'll say this. You guys watch Star Wars, right? Star Wars fans?
No.
I'm sure some
I've seen some Star Wars movies, yeah.
In The Empire Strikes Back, they're going to put Luke in the carbon freeze, right? But he says, no, I don't want the Emperor's prize damaged, right? He goes, we'll test the machine on Captain Solo.
Yeah,
Watch The Empire Strikes Back. So he throws him in there, right? They're testing the system on people that they think are expendable. But we're not the Emperor's prize. You, white America, you're the Emperor's prize. When you look at Dallas, you think, what, that's some black-white shit because he killed those cops? No. In one fell swoop, all combat veterans have been criminalized.
Yep.
All combat veterans are now potential enemies of the state. Look at it that way.
You know who told me that?
Automatically see.
Minister Farrakhan told me that before. He told me that what happened first? Dallas happened first,
right?
And then Baton Rouge,
right?
He told me that right after Dallas happened.
Can you explain that a little more? Can you explain what you mean by that?
I have some friends that are libertarians, right? And I appreciate their ideology. We have beautiful political discussions. We don't always agree, but we respect each other the same way we all here do.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they'll say to me, well, for example, remember those FEMA camps everybody was railing on about before?
Yeah.
They exist now, not called FEMA camps, but they hold entire families. They just happen to be immigrants without papers. And you think it's okay because they are somehow illegally here and not doing that. So that means that we can treat them inhumanely. What they're doing is setting a precedent. Right? Legally, you understand what that means. They're setting a precedent so that when they do this later on to other people, you'll say, wait, that's so wrong. And you'll say, what are you talking about? This is the way it's always been. There are already laws put into place where if you, now the Blue Lives Matter law in Louisiana that comes out, well, this law wasn't necessarily designed just for us, right? It was designed for all of you to reap the benefits of, because at the end of the day, they need your tax dollars, which are the majority of them. They're not afraid anymore of a black or Latino messiah. They're sure they're scared of us, but they're terrified of a white person who reads Malcolm or who looks at Fred Hampton and says, these are human beings that understood that the system was fascist and designed in a fucked up way because it wasn't for us. So that's why the police had to kill someone.
Can you explain the thing about marginalizing the soldiers real quick again? How the Dallas?
Well, if you look at it this way,
yeah.
Right. When he killed those officers, whatever excuse that he gave is not what they're looking at. They're looking at the fact that people like him, like Chris Dorner, they had this military training that doesn't make them people you can just fuck with any way you want to. Right? The government knows who they can fuck with and who they can't, right? If let's say you're a Navy SEAL, you think they're going to come to your house and serve a tax warrant and slap you around and think they can get away with that? No, you're a member not only of an elite force, but you have lots of friends that have bled in battle for you. And at the end of the day, whether they're white, black, brown, yellow, you guys all served in the same goddamn unit and you see each other as more family than the family you were born into. You choose the brothers and sisters that you have in this life. So when they see that and they see one of their own treated like that, automatically they all stand up and say, well, wait, we're not going to be given some oversimplified excuse why a person who fought for this country died and was put in that position. We want to know why. The government doesn't want you to ask why. The government doesn't even care to have that conversation. They want unflinching loyalty to the system, but there's no accountability for it. The only problem is just because it's not accountable to black and Latino people doesn't mean it won't one day be unaccountable to you. So the most important story that I'll use to illustrate this, and then I'll stop.
No, I want you to explain the marginalization, like what their goal is. Is it to discredit soldiers?
There's an article in Politico, right? That came out a while ago about a colonel in the army whose son was a white guy from Wisconsin, whose son was shot in the head by police within 3 seconds of them having an argument. The first shot was a misfire, right to his head. And the cop cocked the weapon and shot him again. And the man wrote a beautiful article, or I believe the article was written about him, called What I Did When the Police Killed My Children. And he went throughout the black community and he started engaging in these conversations where people would come up to him and say, well, they've been getting away with doing this to us for years. Of course they're going to get away with doing it to you. And the man then realized, oh, all of this privilege, all of this power that I've been given as not just an officer, but I coming from a father who taught in a military academy, a colonel. Fuck that. I know what a colonel means in this military force. A fucking guy, dude, you way up there. The president got to salute you, right? So you're talking about a person of that level whose son isn't given that consideration. How could you not see yourself as being criminalized, right? You find yourself now the victim of government spying just because you know how to fight back.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like the government fears the trained and the traumatized.
Not just that, but they also realized that, look, what happened the last time black and Latino people got really fucking angry at the system? We destroyed Baltimore. We destroyed LA. Okay, what happened the last time white people got really pissed off at this system? They ripped this fucking country in half. That's what they're afraid of.
And that's what we need now. I keep saying we need people that are privileged to use their privilege to combat prejudice. Because we've been screaming for years. Black and Latino people have been telling y'all about the same old problems for years. That's not going to change shit until white people get involved.
You know what? You guys are making this really great point. I think that there's something you're saying that has been articulated fucking brilliantly here. And this is how you get white people who don't even give a fuck about brown and black people to support their causes. This idea of, you're next.
Duh! Martin Luther King Jr. said it. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
And it's like, listen, I've always been, I guess, empathetic because I grew up in this diverse place. I have these friends that are going through these things, so it's like, of course I'm going to care about you. But there are people who don't even see, I guess, you on a humanistic level, people of color in that way, right? But if you get through to them, it's literally like when aliens come. You know when aliens come and Russia and America and the movie starts to go, all right, let's put our differences aside and go kill aliens.
Now too, by the way.
Let's be real. The human race, there's a good argument being made that we're just a group of talking monkeys on a floating rock in space, trying to desperately justify our existence. The interesting thing about what you brought up is that we can have all the differences in the world, right? You imagine, well, there's a Klan member here, or there's a Black Lives Matter activist, there's a Minuteman who hates immigrants, and there's an immigrant in the room, right? We can all hate each other, but the moment someone drops a spider the size of this table,
we all try to kill that spider.
The Klan member is gonna go to the black lady, hey brother, let's kill this fucking thing right now because, and then we'll figure out our problems. The one thing that's interesting about that is that that's where you find a lot of human unity in catastrophe, in chaos.
After 9/11, remember in New York, everybody's fucking best buddies in New York.
Well, except for the cab drivers who got for no reason, right?
I've been saying,
who were from countries that had nothing to do with 9/11, right?
Believe in religions that got nothing to do with this love.
I've been saying forever that we need some aliens to come down from this motherfucker.
Oh, they'll have nothing to do with you. I talked to them already. They said no. They said quarantine that planet full of monkeys. They could never leave. Listen, by the way, you call your own fucking people aliens. Imagine what you'd call us. Fuck y'all. They're not gonna come.
But that's the way. Sorry to interrupt.
So where is America? Where are we going? That's the bigger question for me. Like, where are we going? Because I see civil war, I see World War III, and I see an alien invasion.
Well, I mean, you got 3 blockbusters for next summer.
I'm telling you.
Fox is waiting for
Charlamagne, you want to get paid before you die. You better write those fucking ideas down. Sell them to somebody in this fucking building. Somebody gonna cut a check.
What do you see for us?
Or
how do we change
I know that's a broad question.
No. Look, what's interesting is that when people say that the Republicans are the party of Lincoln, they're lying. Because if they look back at that time, the real Republicans of that era were radical Republicans, and they hated Lincoln. They thought he violated the Constitution. They felt like a lot of the things he did were wrong. The Emancipation Proclamation, they said, was this toothless document because you're saying that black and white people should be equal under the eyes of the law, but not equal in terms of their culture and not equal as people. It doesn't make any sense. A tier justice system. So when you imagine this era, right? I read the writings of these people, and what they said kind of touches on what we're going through now. He said, don't you see that you will have, and I quote, planted the seeds of despotism at your own door? If our war with Mexico is an illegal war between one republic who's larger, able to take over another, then this behavior will continue. Congress will never approve these military matters, right? Because they don't fit the benchmark of our society. The problem is you're going to have to give the president unprecedented king-like powers in order to continue this thing. And who can argue that that's not true? Who can argue that the president doesn't have those type of powers now? So we are sinking into a more kind of oligarchical society, I believe. I believe power is being concentrated. And there's an old German philosopher who wrote about this thing called the iron law of oligarchy that said no matter what a society is, whether it's a communist society with a Politburo that says, oh, everyone's going to be equal, or a capitalist society where everyone feeds you the idea that if you work really hard, you can have, in 20 or 30 years, you can have a house like Mr. McDowell's too, right? Yeah. So the premise is that when you look at these scenarios and how they're set up, right, these people were trying to warn us about what the impending dangers were of our growing empire. And that's where I think we're headed to. We're headed to the point where things are so dysfunctional in this country that someone would rather have a king in charge, right? Even though all America, even though all of America hates it, but it was the same thing in Rome, wasn't it? People said, "Oh man, we have a republic. Fuck a republic. We need to get some shit done. Let's hire a Caesar. Let's make ourselves a real dictator." Well, if it's not Caesar, then it'll be his nephew. If not his nephew, then Tiberius. But then Tiberius, we got a Caligula. But now we need a Praetorian Guard to separate us from the people. Huh?
Won't that cause a civil unrest though? I mean, we got civil unrest now, but won't that cause like a real racial divide, or not even racial, because you're going to have minorities and oppressed groups who feel like they're not going to get as much attention as the majority.
Well, I think when we talk about that in itself, and we touch on the topic where we actually look at the history of race in this country, I believe that racism exists either because of the genius or the cowardice of America, depending on our interpretation, right? Mm-hmm. And I say this because lots of other societies had slaves, right? The Caliphate had slaves, right? They were in the slave trade when London was a series of mud huts by the River Thames, right? When Europeans didn't have forks and ate pig with their hands. These people were in the slave trade back then because the Viking herd would actually steal women from northern Scotland and from Ireland. They were the first people in in a transcontinental slave trade, and they would sell them for their weight in silver in the slave markets of Cairo. When you look at Rome, they had slaves. When you look at ancient Europe, they had slaves in medieval Europe. They didn't need a justification for that. Their premise was, you lost the fucking war. You're a slave. When Alexander the Great's father conquered the Scythians, his price for peace was 20,000 women of a breeding age, right? So what we're talking about is that ultimate power. But the problem is that when slavery came to this country, America was either smart enough to know that it wouldn't be compatible with the values that they originally set up in the Constitution, or they were so much of a coward because they realized, man, we're propagating one thing and we're saying another, right? The presidents of this nation were Masons, right? That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a fact. Masons know a lot about the history of Africa, right? Hiram Abiff is their grand architect. He was the architect of King Solomon. So how don't you know the achievements of black people? You're going to claim that they're 3/5 of a person? You had to create religious lies. The mark of Cain, right? You had to create scientific lies, Charlemagne. The eugenics, which is total pseudoscience, right? You had to create these lies to justify enslaving a people. Similar to the way that we'll see at the Alhambra decree after La Reconquista, which decided that all Muslims and all Jews would leave Spain under penalty of confiscation of person or property, is what the document says. So when you see that and when you see what it is, you notice that there's a trajectory in which we're headed, right? If we just have one point of history, then no one knows where we are. But if we have a point of history in which we were the masters of our own destiny, and then we're stuck here in a much lower level, then we obviously must be headed in a downward spiral in terms of personal freedoms. I think that's something that's definitely going to be on the sacrificial altar. Personal freedoms, privacy, that's not going to exist anymore. You know what I mean? I was born in 1978. I remember a time when the television turned off at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? It was just static. That doesn't exist anymore. They want to watch you 24/7. You know, you got the Pokemon thing. That's wonderful, but it also maps the inside of your house and everywhere that you go.
And that face swap shit. Ain't number face fucking the face recognition. Yeah.
Right. So all of these things are the end of privacy. That's it. The end of privacy. We want to know what's going on in your home. And pretty soon, Charlemagne, I think they're going to want to know what's going on in your head. They're going to say, no, I have to make sure that this person's loyal. They could be harboring secret intentions against the empire. So
kind of like Minority Report.
In a way, yeah. Only that it's not going to affect just minorities.
Today's episode of Brilliant Idiots is brought to you by Loot Crate. Now, Loot Crate is a monthly subscription box service for epic geek and gamer items and pop culture gear. I think I got last month's box right here.
What we got?
You got Mega Man, which is the only thing I recognize from my childhood. Oh, Star Trek. Here you go, The Next Generation for you Trekkies out there.
I saw the movie. I thought it was legit.
I haven't seen the new one. Is it dope?
The action sequences are sick.
Okay.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Well, for less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. And they've got more than the standard Loot Crate, too. Loot wear to keep your geek fashions fresh. Loot pets to bring out your pets in the nerd. Loot to 9. Loot to 9? What the fuck is Loot to 9?
I don't know, but they got Loot Gaming.
I know what Loot Gaming is. Well, the options are limitless.
And August is the perfect time to explore the anti-hero, from bad guys doing good things for the wrong reason to good guys with questionable tactics. Walk the hero/villain line with this 100% exclusive collection of items from DC Comics, Archer, Dark Horse, and Kill Bill that includes 2 great collectibles, a wearable, the monthly tee, and of course, the Loot Pin. Purchase your new Loot Crate subscription by going to lootcrate.com/idiots and enter the code IDIOTS to save $3 on any new subscription. You've got until August 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific time to subscribe and receive that month's crate. But when the cutoff happens, it's over. So order your Loot Crate today. That's lootcrate.com/idiots. Offer code IDIOTS to save $3 on your new Loot Crate subscription.
So when you say that they're testing, only got a couple more questions. When you say that they're testing something, you said they're testing it out on the Porn Disenfranchised. What exactly are they testing?
They're testing whether people will take the system or not, whether they'll get up and rebel. I said this in another interview. If I showed you a little white kid, blonde hair, blue eyes, on a swing, and a cop said, "It's not your turn, get off the swing," and the kid said, "I don't have to," and he shot him, you would think that was wrong. There would be no justification for that. If the kid was black, there's a significant percentage of the population that says his mother should have raised him to respect authority more. He would be alive if he just listened to the cops. Those are the first people that are going to be in a slave camp. Those are the first dummies that are going to sign up to be there. Those are the first victims of the Warsaw Ghetto. The people that regret that they didn't see it coming, right? And that's the sad part that we realize, that there's definitely elements of this in every struggle. So I had to learn from the Armenian genocide, from the Jewish people's Holocaust, right? I had to learn from the indigenous Holocaust. I had to learn from the Middle Passage, the title of my next album, the African Holocaust. These are things that are important to recognize, because we're told in this country, never forget the Holocaust, and we never should. Never forget 9/11. But the problem is, and we never should, but the problem is we're told, get over slavery, get over someone stealing this country from the indigenous people that bothered. That's my problem. That because you are only willing to recognize one and humanize one people's struggle, you've dehumanized your own struggle in the future. You don't realize that the things that you've set into motion will affect you now. You know, for example, when people talk about the Patriot Act, I remind people that we went to war in 1899 against the Spanish. We had the Spanish-American War, where we took Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Guam, the Philippines,
Gotcha.
because of the Monroe Doctrine that was signed in the 1820s, brother. So here they have a law that they've enacted then 70 years from the past to justify a war that they'll have now. So when people ask me about the Patriot Act and all these secret things that they're coming up with now, I'm not scared necessarily of what they'll just do now. I'm scared of what they'll be used to justify in the future. And the people might even be dead or might not even be here to recognize what happened. Their children's children, her children, his children will just say, hey, that's just the way it's always been. Why would it be any different?
Yeah.
Why would you not get killed if you talk back to a cop? You know what I mean? The only problem is that you don't recognize that you're justifying your own fascist entity. You're welcoming it. And as those old radical Republicans said, you are the one that's planting the seeds of despotism at your own door.
So even when you talk about invasion of privacy, that's martial law.
To some degree.
To some degree? Okay.
But I think that it starts off at a very low level. You can't introduce it to people with nothing. You have to give it to them little by little by little by little, like an abusive relationship. Do you think people wake up one day and it's, oh, when someone just is beating them all the time? No, little by little. You know, for example, verbally abusive people are the ones that are usually the benchmark that then transfers to a physical or sexually violent relationship. Rape, murder, you know what I mean? That when people get physically abused like that, it doesn't start out that way, right? It starts out little by little, a slap, an argument, someone cursing you out in front of your parents, throws water on you, disrespects you in some way, shape, or form. That's what's going on right now. These little tiny things, well, not tiny to us, right? But tiny to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm. So it's good that we're protesting, being
Absolutely.
that, you know, they see we're not just going to take this lying down. Like,
Right.
this isn't the era that you can just do this type of
How
stuff.
about this? No human being will ever take it lying down. That's the myth, that we came quietly, right? That's the myth that we somehow that we accepted slavery. No one ever did. It doesn't matter if a human being is black, brown, white. If you want to put a person on the ground, you have to stay on the ground with that person to hold them down. Because if they're Latino, if they're Scottish, this motherfucker know, if they're Scottish, you let that person up, they're going to stand up and fight you.
Roddy Piper.
It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
we needed some comedy. Thank you for that. We needed that.
Of all the great Scottish people in the world, Rowdy
William Wallace and
Roddy
Rowdy fucking. You know what though? Rest in peace to Rowdy.
Yes.
Don't you think it's hypocritical though that such a violent society that we live in tells us that we're crazy when we react violently to violence? Meaning, like, now I'm not justifying the police shootings at all, but I'm just saying you have to know that this is the repercussions to that. Violence begets violence. Senseless killings beget more senseless killings.
We shouldn't be surprised. Doesn't make it right.
Yeah, it doesn't make it right, but we shouldn't be surprised.
Sure, I think all people, who are introduced to violence rebel in that way. And I think also they're inspired by violence. When I was a kid, I went to a good school, but I lived in Harlem. So automatically people thought, damn, you were a smart kid, when you're smart, you soft, right? So I always tell people I can bench a good amount on the regular bench, but I could probably do almost 3 plates on an incline. And people say, why? That's a lot for a dude your size. Like 3 plates, that's damn near 315. I said, yeah, because I've been punching up all my life. That's what I'm talking about. When people look at you in that fashion, right? And they don't expect you to know your history, they're threatened by it. Not because they hate it, but because they're angry, they don't know it either.
You took the test to get into Hunter? You went to Hunter, right?
Yes, I did.
You took that test?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I failed that shit, dog.
When I was 3,
I ain't getting into
I spoke
Hunter.
3 languages. Right? So when I went in there, they were like, "You talk to us in English?" Sure. They said, "Could you talk to us in Spanish?" And then the lady, I guess to have fun, my mother told me, was like, "Do you know any other languages?" And I was like, "Pas français?" Oh God, get him in here. No, but I'll give you an interesting example. Thank you for bringing that up. I went to 3 chess championships when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Right. And I learned to play the game really good. And my father was the one that taught me about what you're talking about in terms of confronting the system. He said to me, I got a friend of mine who came from Eastern Europe, right? And he's at the college that I'm at, and he has 2 PhDs, and he's 24 years old. He goes, this guy is a fucking genius on paper. He goes, but he doesn't know how to play chess. He goes, could you beat him, Felipe? And I said, Dad, it's not a question of could I beat him? It's how you want me to beat him. Do you want me to let him play for a little while, then rip his pieces off the board? Do you want me to play to the end game and then beat him? Do you want me to make him feel like he's actually doing something and accomplishing something and then crush his dreams? He goes, that's exactly how the system sees you. You might be smarter, but they've been playing this game for so long. They know how to divide working class white people and working class black people and pit them against each other. Because when you have a problem, you got a problem. But when you got 2 problems, you put them together and let them solve each other. Hire one half of the poor to kill the other half. This is the thing that we're dealing with. So instead of actually dealing with the problems, it's not only black people that have been lied to about their history. Where in white people's American history is who fought for all the fact that there wouldn't be 10-year-olds working in a slave labor camp, right? Making a steel mill shit for the robber barons of this world. Who fought so that you would have an 8-hour day, and anytime somebody made you work more than that, you had to get paid? Who fought to say that your mom couldn't be fired for being pregnant? Is that filed under the commie history section of America? No, those are workers' rights, and those affected everybody. The problem is that they never were applied across the board towards people of all races and cultures. But it still stands that those workers still got fucked out of their jobs. They were eventually replaced, and they were eventually abandoned by the system. So when you look at it from that perspective, without doing the historical analysis and putting it into context, you'll always be opposed to one another without realizing that you have more in common than you do apart. And that's the problem, that people don't recognize that commonality, because we can talk about how racism is real, but race is a social construct. We're one human race, right? We have different phenotypes based upon where we're from. Sure. You know what I mean? With less sun up there, more sun here. You know what I mean? People have a different hair based on the weather or the area, the temperament where they live.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's necessary to point out. We're one human race, and people have used the idea of that because they never want to discuss classism. That's the last thing on their fucking agenda.
I mean, we don't even need classism with racism. When you got racist white people that simply think they're better than you.
Because it protects class.
That's more convenient.
It makes people that are poor and being taken advantage of by the system think just for a second, man, at least I'm not bad.
Exactly.
Yes.
But what about them poor white niggas that I call Trump supporters down south who are white, poor as shit, but still think they better than you?
Here's an interesting thing. If you ever look up Fred Hampton on YouTube, I'm not talking to you, I'm saying the people at home, you'll find he's in a meeting. And I saw this very interesting meeting. It was a movie called, I think it was Bastards of the Party, or it was a movie about the Black Panthers. And it showed how Fred Hampton had gone into these communities where there were poor working class white people. And one of the interesting things I saw is, to your point, there was a white guy that was standing next to Fred, and he had a black vest. And on the side of his vest was a Confederate flag, right? Mind you, Fred is a Black Panther, one of the most prominent ones. He wasn't railing on that for a second. He said, wait a minute, we can deal with these issues. But as white working class people that are being taken advantage of by the same corporations that are turning a blind eye and taking advantage of to us, if we unite, then we find more commonality amongst ourselves. I'm not saying that we'll ignore that. We can have a cultural discussion and a debate, which you'll probably lose, about the origin of that flag, about the what it actually means and what it signifies, right? But if we unite as working class people, we can force them to come to terms now with us, right? Because we have a unified front where you can't say, oh, I'm going to replace the white worker with the black worker when he goes on strike. No, I won't strike because that's my brother in arms, and I won't allow you to use me to pit against him. In the other way, I won't allow these people to be the brunt of a system being tested on me.
I saw that actually on the Black Panther documentary, but you know that's also why they really got rid of Martin Luther King Jr., because he was trying to put together the Poor People Movement, which is going to be the Poor People March, which is going to unite everybody of all colors, just poor and disenfranchised, on the Washington Monument. That would have changed society.
For someone, like I said before, they're terrified of a little white kid that's watching this program that will read Malcolm and say this person was against a fascist system. This person was against a broken system. They're afraid of their so-called white messiah, a white revolutionary person that stands for the working class people, that was willing to stand up to the system, a person that maybe was influenced by Tupac's music or heard something of mine or watched this show and said, you know what, this is bullshit. We have to fight against this. You know why? Because then they have a Kent State. Then they have something else that they have to take very, very seriously, because then they have someone who exemplifies and draws empathy from the majority of America to look at that and say, okay, well, now it's so obviously wrong that we have to take action to it. But that doesn't discount the Black and Latino plight, historically speaking, and especially not the indigenous people's plight, because they were given the rawest deal. I mean, a good God, to almost be totally wiped out and obliterated. I mean, that's why
they don't even have a voice, really.
Well, they do, but this is the thing. That's why whenever I visit reservations or I go to the powwows, I take great honor and great pride in speaking with those people about their culture, about their history, and they tell me very sad stories, about how rape was a regular thing. Rape is a tool of war. That was in the British manual. That's what they were supposed to do to their women. As a matter of fact, the great-great-grandmothers told stories about how when the women were young, in order that they wouldn't be raped by European settlers, they would fill their privates with sand.
Jesus Christ.
It was a regular tradition. Also, brother, here are other uncomfortable parts. We've seen every plantation that there is except one in the movies, right? We've seen people pick cotton. We've seen them do all kinds of things. You ever seen the breeding plantations?
Nah.
Well, there's only one, I think, film that slightly covers it. It's called Goodbye, Uncle Tom, right? If you want to see it, it's a very, very, very powerful, very horrific film. But in that movie, they show how people, what do you think? It was some happy-go-lucky story where it was like, prima nocta from there was the nicest shit they probably could have done to those people. Instead, they stole them from their home when they were 8 or 9 years old, and they were forcibly made to mate with one male, one alpha, one buck, while the rest of them were castrated. This is the story that never wants to be told because people think it's too harsh to tell. But without exposing those things, they don't show you how cruel a system is, and it doesn't really believe in human life.
The American slavery is different than slavery in the Caribbean and South America in that they actually increased the slave population. In the Caribbean and South America, the numbers would dwindle because they wouldn't essentially breed them effectively, where in America, the number increased. They found a way to not only sustain it, but grow it. And I think that's why you see much more of a, I guess you can see a mixture in when you go to parts of South America in terms of like the way people look. Like there's more characteristics from different races.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
What in terms of the numbers of
the numbers of people? Because
it is absolutely.
No. The only reason I'll say it's different is because the largest diaspora of African people don't really exist in America. America, when you compare it to all the people who are brought to this side of the hemisphere, America actually has a small percentage
that were brought
of Africa. Right.
I'm saying, but after they were brought here, they were able to breed and grow that population. Where if you go to Brazil, which had the most Africans that came, they had the most that were brought in, but so many died and so many did not bear children. Right. So more and more kept needed to be coming in. But America had this system, which is in a lot of ways, I would think the most diabolical, which is not only are you going to
breed them,
you're going to be a slave, you're going to make more slaves.
Is that other cultures like the Dutch and the French, they bred slaves for specific purposes, right? They bred slaves to be mercenaries. They bred slaves to be women of pleasure, right? It's just prostitutes. So people had this different idea of what they were going to do. We're going to take this black person, we're going to mix it with an Asian person, and that way we'll get something that we want better to be more tempting to mankind. This is the reality of how devilish people used to think, because they didn't actually see them as human beings, which is the difference, I think, between how people addressed us. Like in hip hop, when we had a lot of conservative black Christians that were actually against it, they called us in the 80s and 90s a disgrace to the race. You're the N-word with an ER, right? You're a black nigger. Like, no. Straight up, I watched them steamroll people's CDs. And the difference was that while they shamed people, they were betraying the civil rights generation, right? They were turning their back on hip hop, because you're talking to an 18, 17-year-old Ice Cube. He's a kid, right? You got the patience all day to be spit on and have hounds sicked on you and have water fountains smashed in your face and have people smack you with a pie while you're sitting on a sit-in, but you don't have the patience to talk to a 16 and 17-year-old child that may have not had the greatest upbringing in life. That's where I think it really failed, because the other difference is, and you touched on Farrakhan, the difference is that he came to the hood, and I remember in Harlem, and he said, wait a minute, let's have a conversation.
Absolutely.
And not that I agree with everything he said, but he said, you know what? Who was the first person to call the black woman a bitch? It was the white slave master, because when she had children, they weren't considered humans. They said she had a litter of pups. That's why they called her a bitch. That's whose language you're using. When we talk about sexism, right? When we talk about people that are machista and really, really patriarchal, and they show you the image of black or Latino men, who the fuck do you think we learned that from, huh?
That's the
you think
white
we
man
came up with that shit all by ourselves?
Word up.
No. Women ain't get the right to vote damn near after we did. It's crazy when you look at that. And when you look at the society that permeates that, it's not just that we were colonized by an economic system, right? Or just by a political system, or just by someone that took away our God, right? Because now we're forced to worship the image of somebody else. It's also that someone destroyed our relationship with our women, right? So that we're not equal parts. So that now we must subjugate the other the same way the other people did, when that wasn't necessarily part of everybody's indigenous culture.
My man, Immortal Technique. Where can they find you, my brother?
I'm on Twitter at Immortal Tech. On Instagram at Tech Immortal. Facebook Tech Immortal. ViperRecords.com is the website. And I just appreciate the opportunity to come on here, and me and the brother about to go write some graffiti in.
And he said the Middle Passage is coming out when?
Middle Passage is being worked on right now. Big shout out to Scram Jones, Ali Shaheed Muhammad, DJ Premier. We got some monsters on there. Ninth Wonder. Probably, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have the record out. But I'm about 10 songs deep. And every time we do an album, we tour the world. And it feels good to be an independent artist that, you know, makes $7 a unit instead of getting that $360 deal rape. And it feels good to be able to use your own voice. And I encourage people to do the same. And I also just close with this. I don't want you to agree with everything that I say. I'd rather you question everything that you're told.
Can I ask you a question? If people want to hear more of your stuff outside of your music, you have any like your maybe writing or anything like that, where can they get some of your political stuff?
Thank you for saying that. I'm writing a book right now, a book of short stories and essays, so that'll be out pretty soon too. If you want to get
involved, Chris,
that's the guy right there to talk to.
That's what's up. And if people want to check me out, they can see all my interviews all over YouTube. And if someone's poor and they can't afford it, then please just steal the music off the internet. I appreciate that. Go steal that shit and enjoy yourself. I only ask that if you do steal the music, the only thing I ask is that you pass it on to someone you think that might like it. Peace.
Thank you to my man, Immortal
Word.
Technique. As always, if you listen to this podcast, you think we're smart, you think we're intelligent, you think we're brilliant, you're absolutely right. But if you listen to this podcast and you think we're just a couple of fucking idiots who don't know what we're talking about, well, that's what we had Immortal Technique here for. Okay? It's the Brilliant Idiots Podcast. Thank you for listening. All right, don't forget, this episode of Brilliant Idiots is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace makes it simple for people with no web design and development experience to create the website they've always wanted by using simple, intuitive processes and tools. We've said it before on the show. We'll say it again. In 2016, you need your own website. That's the minimum. There's BrilliantIdiots.com. There's See the God World. There's AndrewSchultz.com.
TheAndrewSchultz.com.
TheAndrewSchultz.com. You need one too. What you don't need to do is pay a designer tons of money to make one. Designing high-end websites for individuals is a dying industry, like a travel agency or a movie rental store or a record store. You don't need that no more.
Squarespace got you covered with award-winning design templates, customizable settings, and more, all without a single plugin. From nationally recognized brands to your favorite local shop, Squarespace is trusted by hundreds of thousands of shop owners around the world. They provide all the tools you need to track inventory, process orders, and send custom emails in with an easy-to-use, intuitive interface. Squarespace even raises the bar of customer service, 24/7, 365 online support, baby. Every member of the customer care team is an experienced Squarespace user working in Squarespace office. No matter how technical your problem or trivial seeming your question is, one of their team always online and ready to help. So start